Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another evening right here at the Sports Crib, our weekly sports cast here. I see Dave is back, thank God, uh, and I see Demetrius is also in the queue. So let's see. Of course, everyone knows our Cash App. You can subscribe and donate right here on YouTube. $sign JEKIII. And let's get right into the program. As I said, I see Dave is here. Dave, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing okay.
All right. And Demetrius is here also.
Hey guys. Hey Dave, good to see you back, buddy.
Hey, Demetrius. Yep. I'll be here this week, but I'll be out next week. I'm going to be heading on a trip. So it's just been
Yeah.
a hectic.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling. Traveling.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
so
good thing though.
Okay.
how's your week been, Demetrius?
Solid. Drop my own podcast as the Lions are opening up in a few days because they're in the Hall of Fame game, and was getting nudged with people about where I thought the Lions were going to be and what I see, and eternal optimist. You guys can probably predict
Okay.
how
All
that
right.
how that podcast went.
uh, yes. Well, unless Mr. Scott called in, I'm sure it was fine. But
I'm trying to lure him in because I know what he does. He watches the beginning to see if I'm here. Then he gets all scared, nervous once he sees me. And then he's like, "Oh man, I got errands I need to go run. I can't go show up." So I'm trying to lure him in. I'm going to see if it works.
uh, Reg is in New York. I'm not sure whether he's working or whether he's following
Yeah, the soccer game, isn't he?
his soccer game. That
He's at the
is,
soccer match.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess Reggie's going to become our soccer expert. Maybe he'll finally be able to explain what offsides is to me. I have no
I can
idea.
do that sometimes. It's the same as hockey, but Reggie is gunning for us to have a soccer segment. And I said, yeah, Dave ain't gonna buy his soccer segment. Forget that. We're not doing it.
uh, so, guys, uh, by the way, Dave, do we have a Sue's Corner tonight?
We do. We do
All
indeed.
right.
All right.
So she says, Sue's Corner. This week is another jewel in the golf crown up for grabs, the British Open. It's being played at Royal Portrush, Ireland. Royal Portrush Golf Club might be the host of this week's Open Championship and a top 20 course in the world, but it can also be yours for the day. It will take advanced planning and a few hundred quid in peak season. But yes, anyone can book a tee time at Royal Portrush,
Wow.
the final men's major championship venue of 2025. That's the huge difference between the US and the UK and Ireland in particular. Of the 2025 major championships, the four biggest tournaments in the men's game, three of the host clubs thrive on being only for the elite. Augusta National Golf Club is famously private, but this year's PGA Championship and US Open sites, Charlotte's Quail Hollow and Pittsburgh's Oakmont, respectively, are also private, members only clubs. Royal Portrush is not only open to visitors, but also its yearly membership dues are what the average American golfer could spend on public tee times in one summer, if not less. Golf in America started to rise at a time when society was enamored with all things British. Fox hunting and golf, for example. And it was thought to be only for those of a higher station. Therefore, the birth of the county or of the country clubs ensued. New money and old money compete for the best clubs. In the UK, golf was really a working man's sport, something he could walk over to after work and knock a few balls around. There were regional competitions and exchange of play, but it was all very affordable. Luckily, municipal and public golf in the U.S. has brought the game to middle-class Americans. Programs such as First Tee make it accessible and affordable for young players across the country. Outside of the country club, though, there are limitations: overcrowding, lack of resources, and rising green fees among them. However, private courses are wide open and well conditioned thanks to small memberships paying massive yearly dues and initiation fees. So interesting how different one game is viewed by two regions that are fascinated with the same game. So that's Sue's Corner. And I'm actually golfing this weekend with two of my sons. We're having my high school reunion this weekend, so we got a scramble going on. So we'll be playing at a public course. It's a county course, but just for example, there it's $78 for the greens fees, and then to ride it would be $96. So nearly $20 for the cart. So almost $100 just to play one round at a public course.
Yeah. Dave, have you ever played Oakmont?
No, I have not. I mean, it's a private club. Sue has a friend that has, Beth. She's worked, she's volunteered for some of the U.S. Opens, and she's a huge. Beth Williams is a golf fanatic, so she's played there, but I haven't.
Okay, all right. It would be interesting for her take on Scotland and how they had pride in their golf also. I'm not sure if it's the same, as Ireland, but I think it would be another good contrast, kind of bring up there.
Yeah, I think so.
Demetrius, do you hit the links?
So I used to hit the links. I was a caddy in high school. And so then about the time I graduated high school, I was 5'11", 180, 190. So your clubs are a certain length, right? And but I played baseball, and the swings are totally different. I mean, damn near opposite. Weight shift, hand location, they're opposite swings. Focused on baseball, then blew my Achilles. That ended. Didn't do much of anything for years. Came back to golf at 6'4", 240. So now it's a different game physically. I'm bending over. So I played with two short clubs for years because I still love the game, right? And then finally, when God blessed me with a good enough job, I got some custom-made clubs, inch longer, straightened up my swing. And so the much shorter version of this story is that I'm a baseball player who plays golf. And for me, what that means is I don't have a slice. I just come through club face open and I hit the ball off the wall in right field for a triple. I can putt. I could play in a scramble and I would just putt. That's what I do well. I have no short game. I have wedges in my bag. I don't know what they're there for because anything between 50 and 120, I don't have that club. No, I don't have that swing. Dave probably, it's like a 3/4 swing, and I don't. I hit my pitching wedge 115 yards beautifully. That doesn't do anything when you're 60 yards away, and I don't have that swing in my bag.
So, the short game.
I don't have a short game. I do not. Now, in the sand, I got a 60-degree lob. I can get up and down, like literal up and down out of the sand. I can do that a little, but any shot less than like 100, 105, I'm flying the green, and sometimes it's downright ugly. So put me in the scramble. I'll do the putting and long irons. I can hit my 3, 4, and sometimes my 5. Everything else is crap. I can just carry those 3 and my putter. That's all I need. I can't hit any other club in that bag. Some of it because I'm long and tall and I'm so upright now. There's a lot more mechanics in my swing, right? And most of it is because I'm a baseball player. So I'm shifting my weight in the exact opposite direction in a baseball swing. And like I said, I will pound triples on the golf course. That's in the other fairway. That's not a triple off the right field wall. That's a ball I gotta yell and tell guys, right? So do I like the game? Yes. I'm actually a better bowler. I took up bowling, and I'm a much better bowler. So I get out half dozen times a year, usually in some kind of charity thing or company thing, or I'm just out there drinking and putting in the scramble. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
my role.
Sue mentioned she must be listening in on the podcast because I only heard her say St. Andrews. That's all I heard. But that
Yeah.
must have been we took a trip to Scotland and
Okay.
we stayed at one of the golf courses there where they play links, which is like a
Yeah.
different game from what
Different.
we
Yeah.
play.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, it's much more challenging.
It is
Uh,
significantly more. It's different kind of course, whole different
yeah.
setup. It's a different thing. Yeah.
But the beauty of the scramble, James, is it's also known as best ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you have a foursome, everybody will tee off, and then you pick
Yeah,
whoever is in the best
the
position, and
longest, the
everybody hits.
longest ball, the closest to the pin, and so forth.
Right,
Right.
right, right.
Everybody tees off except Demetrius. I wait until we get to the green, and then my job is to knock down that 12-foot putt because I know how to read greens, being a caddy for 3 years. That's what I'm good at. I can read greens and breaks and ball sweep. But if it's 60 or 80, I'm just sitting in the cart. You take my shot. There's just no point in wasting everybody's time. Somebody's gonna get hurt.
But the game will really addict you.
Oh
I
yeah,
had quit
very.
playing, and then my two sons started playing about 2 years ago, and so they got me playing again. And
Yeah.
it's a great time for me. I get to spend 4.5 hours with my sons, playing around the golf, and it's a great time to share some time and have some
Yep.
fun, and it is addictive.
Yes. It's a very addictive game, and it's humbling. By the way, you can
Oh,
be you could be a guy who can. It will humble you.
from my understanding, golf will humble anyone of any size, except maybe Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley.
Oh no, they're yeah, those two especially. They're humble. They won't admit it, but they are.
uh, so, guys, came across another interesting story. Thought I'd like to get your take on it. I thought maybe this was another story I thought would maybe lure Mr. Scott here a little earlier. But anyway, seems like Teddy Bridgewater is in a little trouble. He's been suspended as the high school football coach of his alma mater. And he was suspended because he provided the youngsters with certain incentives, like Uber rides to practice, football camps, providing, uniforms to players and so forth. And he has been suspended by his local high school. But there's two twists to this story. Number one, Teddy is not employed by the high school. So how do you suspend him? Number two, Teddy used his own money. Now, I'm not sure whether Maryland, Pennsylvania, Michigan have the same type of laws. I know there are laws in ruling high school sports in Ohio, and I'm not exactly. I know these rules are for paid employees, so I'm trying to figure out what this is all about. If Teddy is not an employee of the high school, and if he's providing this with his own money to the kids, and we always talk about how much our kids need help. I mean, Dave, what do you think? What's going on here? What's the real story?
Oh, well, that's impacted us here in Maryland. What it is it's about parity, and so in other words, you have like a school system, and there's some schools that are wealthier than other schools, and so a lot of times the athletic association will have rules limiting the amount of money or the types of things that you can pay for, because then it's like, okay, well, the rich people get all this stuff, and then the other schools that don't have those types of benefactors or boosters, they don't. So there's restrictions, put on boosters clubs on what they can spend, and so that they don't get so that they can't gild their program. So that when they play a program in a part of the county that doesn't have as much money as them, that it's kind of it's about parity is what it's about. So apparently he spent about $100,000. I think some of it was for Uber rides, meals, recovery services, and things like that. And that's one of those things of where, because everybody can't have it, well, then they say, well, then nobody can have it.
That's it. That's it. Yep. Yep. I think. I
But
think.
now,
I think. So
but
here's the thing. I think you're
It
stuck on
doesn't matter
something that's
whether you're a
not
paid employee. It's like
exactly.
in the case of boosters, those are parents. They're not paid. Well,
Exactly.
they can put in all this money into the booster club, but they're restricted on what they can use that money for, even though
uh,
they're not employees of the school.
you know, uh, again, showing my age, bringing out my black socks. We had a high school that was right across the street from ours called Cathedral Latin. If you know anything about Ohio football, Cathedral Latin stomped up and down the state for years. We had another high school in Youngstown, Catholic high school, called Ursuline High School. Ursuline had a terrific program along with Cardinal Mooney. Now, once again, like you say, Dave, it's about the boosters and it's about the parity. They're wearing brand new uniforms every year. We're wearing uniforms from passed down from the junior high school. So I understand what you're saying about parity, but it seems like it's only in certain cases where this is applied. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
I
What
mean,
is it?
I'm not defending it. I'm just trying to explain what's personally. I don't like. I would like to have our high school to have better things, but we're limited on what is allowed to be done for the school, and that's the reason for it. Now, it doesn't mean, and then that's for public schools. Private schools are a completely different animal. They're recruiting kids, they're giving them scholarships, and so then so then the public schools, not only will the private schools have nicer facilities, but to also poach the best athletes away from the public schools as well.
Yeah. So I think that while we're kind of on the right track, there's a slight distinction. Parity is ideal. That's the wish. The responsibility, the job of the Florida High School Athletic Association, or filling the state high school athletic association, is to try and create competitive balance for the kids. They don't give a damn about Teddy Bridgewater, and they shouldn't, because his name could have been Joe Smith. He and his money, because he's a millionaire professional athlete, he is providing a competitive advantage for one school. It doesn't matter what school it is, any one school. So the job, as much as they can, is to identify. And let's be honest, what happened was some parents from some kid from some other school picked up the phone and said, "What the hell? What the hell? You guys are letting Teddy Bridgewater give those kids? We don't got that kind of money." And in its purest sense, it's about competitive advantage for the kids, because it's about the kids. Forget about Teddy Bridgewater. Forget about the parents that are mad. If your work is truly in the best interest of the kids, I don't disagree with this at all. And Teddy Bridgewater might still be an employee of the Detroit Lions right now, I think. But even doesn't matter. What he's doing created a competitive disadvantage for a bunch of kids. And if you just think about it from the space of the kids, which is what the Florida High School Athletic Association should be doing, it's the right thing to do. And you don't need to be an employee for me to suspend you, because you can take out the word suspension because they're just being nice. and say, "You get your ass up out of here." However you want to say it, you cannot keep creating this disadvantage because we know what happened. Somebody's parents called and said Teddy Bridgewater's feeding those kids. He's buying them new jerseys. He's giving them right. We don't have that money. It's not fair to my kid. They're not wrong, and the athletic association is doing their job. That's exactly what they're supposed to do. And I'm not mad at Teddy. I get it. If I had that kind of money, maybe I'd go back to Flint Northern and wait a minute, Flint Northern doesn't exist anymore. But if I could have, I probably would have until they threw me up out of there. But yeah, it's about the kids. This is not fair. If Teddy was following the rules and not providing a competitive advantage to his school, he'd still be the coach.
Mr. Scott, glad for you to join us.
Well, yeah, I'm glad to be here. And I just would like to springboard on something, Demetrius. See, Teddy Bridgewater was here in Minnesota.
Yeah, he was.
And so he was drafted. And the thing is, the coach, Mike, what was that guy? Mike, he's in Dallas now.
McCarthy.
Oh, we probably really don't know his name now.
He's in Dallas, yeah. But this guy, Mike, he really
Zimmer.
had
Zimmer.
Mike Zimmer.
Yeah.
Thank you, Demetrius. And so he had everything. All eggs were in that basket.
Yeah.
I mean, he had built his team around there where they had the running back, the defense, and they knew Teddy was a guy at that time as a young man. He did not turn the ball over. He really was a real game manager, So that was, and then he gets hurt the next year in training camp on a non-hit play, and he couldn't. Basically, he has not been able to play anymore at that level.
Yeah.
And I think that even though I didn't care for Zimmer, but I really think I would have loved to have seen him had a chance to have his hand-picked quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, and how that would have really worked out. I'm sure we would have beat the Lions. I mean, we would have had at least two. We would have had two wins right there.
Yeah, like you do every. Oh wait, never mind. You actually don't.
So yeah, really, when you mentioned Teddy, and he just seems like just like a really great guy. I mean, he and this buying uniforms or buying things. I mean, if he's a parent doing that, I suppose it's different than if you're the coach. I don't know, but I appreciate you breaking it down. Sometimes you can break down things in an accurate way. Sometimes, you're able to break things down in an accurate way. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate you saying it.
Occasionally.
I have my moments. I'm not. My head's not big. I'm not gonna get big. I'm good.
Oh, okay, guys. So I'm still trying to figure out now. If I'm correct, isn't this his high school alma mater? Aren't they the state champs already?
Yeah. We know why, probably.
Because it said he was bringing them players over from the next county, right?
Right. I mean, and I get it. I get his motivation. I understand, the parents of that school. But if you're a parent of another school, I would have picked up the phone too. And we're going to find out later. That's what happened. When they make the 30 for 30, it's going to be a list. There's going to be a bench full of them talking about it, right? And we're going to see that one lady who called. Yeah, I called. Yep. I would have called too.
Well, haters will hate, right? But now, Dave, I'm going to have to, I guess, kind of exclude you here for a couple of minutes. We've got a couple of little basketball talks here.
Dave don't do any basketball. Dave can't even do LeBron. No. All right. All right.
I could, but I mean, I would be talking from complete lack of knowledge.
Okay. All right. This will be easy. I might let Mr. Scott have this one because this is great. What he's going to do right now, it's only second to rap music. This is going to be fantastic.
So gonna start with you there, Mr. Scott. We have your guy here.
Take my talents.
Take my talents. He when the Lakers were sold, they didn't talk to LeBron. They didn't offer an extension or nothing. Mr. Scott, is this the Lakers preparing for life after LeBron?
Well, with new ownership, there's so many LeBron rumors that you just never know with Take My Talents. They're talking about wherever he goes, and they got to take Bronny with him. They're talking about he wants to do this, but let's figure, man's 40 years old. He's got a $50 million deal, I think, now for this year, and so it's all right to retire, LeBron. Take my talents. Just take my talents to wherever. He has businesses. He has all kinds of things going on.
Take your talents home.
Yeah,
To the couch. Take your talents to the couch and pick up a
priority.
Right.
When basketball, I've heard maybe he's going to go to Minnesota. A team that's on the rise. I heard maybe he might Golden State. Play with Steph. But at this point, I really don't care. Really, I'm just almost pretty much tired of LeBron. And I'm tired of Take My Talents. And that show that he did when he went to Miami and they had that big special that, well, I think I'll take my talent. Oh, to me, that just did it for me. I was through with him after that. Really. I have no use for him. Really. He should retire. But he's going to play another year. He's definitely going to play another year. And he's trying to get his son set up. So we'll see how that works. So he can't. So he got new owners with the Lakers now. See, he can't sweet talk Jeannie Buss anymore. So he can't do that anymore. She's gone. So we'll see. We'll see what Take My Talents is going to do. It's be very interesting.
What do you think, Demetrius?
Yeah, he's right. Everything he said is right, and this is weird. We're getting along great tonight. I don't know how long it's going to last, but he's right. So to answer your question, of course the Lakers are preparing for life without LeBron. They've got a 27-year-old superstar on the roster. They've got a cap situation so that next year they're going to have a ton of money, and they can sit down with the new center of their team, which is Luka, and say, Luka, tell us who you want, because we got that, because LeBron's $52 million goes away. Here's the real. LeBron has never not been the center of attention. He has never not been the focal point of a team. But now he's 42. We let you do the whole thing with Bronny. It was cool, whatever. Our future is Luka. We're preparing for next summer. If he really wanted to not be a Laker, he didn't have to opt into the $52 million. He could have opted out. He could have been an unrestricted free agent, and he could have played anywhere. But he opted in and took the money, and then he and his agent started making noise. Okay, the logistics don't work. You make $52 million a year. You want to know how many teams in the league right now can absorb a $52 million contract? Exactly zero. How many of them are going to give up talented players? Because in the NBA with contracts, there's this weird thing where the money has to match up within 10%. So if you want to trade for a $52 million player, you got to give up like $48 million in salary. That's how it works. Who's going to give up $48 million in talent to get a 40-year-old who wants to drag his son along, and you're only getting him probably for a year? Like there's no. He is a Laker. It doesn't matter what he wants. It doesn't matter anymore. He opted into his contract. He's under contract to the Lakers this year. He's going to play for the Lakers, and then next year he can do whatever he wants. And I'm with Mr. Scott. Take your talents to the fucking couch and grab a remote and a beer, or make movies or do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's not to say he's not one of the 20 best players still. He's a very talented man. At 40, he is phenomenal. But he is not one of those dudes now who gets to dictate an organization. And there's only a few of those. And he's no longer one. And the problem is there's one on his team named Luka. So the Lakers are Luka's team now. Hard pill to swallow, but Father Time is undefeated. As LeVar Ball said, never lost. Never lost. Father Time has never lost. And it's unfortunate, but Michael Jordan played for the Wizards, and then Abe Polian screwed him over and got him up out of there. Sent them down to Charlotte. Everybody. I remember Scottie Pippen as a Portland Trailblazer. I remember that, right? I remember Charles Barkley. I remember Shaq playing for Boston, 400 pounds. I remember that, right? So it happens to everybody. And now he can take his talents to the golf course. He can take his talents to the actual beach, not South Beach, but the actual beach with shorts and a puffy ball. It's time. So yeah, I think the Lakers are. Short answer to your question is they absolutely are, and they're not even trying to be secretive about it. They're being very clear what they're doing.
Yeah, very clear. Like you said, this is Luca's team. Wonder what's going to happen the first time Luca comes into camp overweight. But
Right,
overweight LeBron and a 44-year-old LeBron. I'm 43-year-old LeBron.
right. That should be
might,
fun.
might be a little trouble.
Right. Interesting season. Yeah.
Guys, Jeffrey should be joining us shortly here, so I'm going to get started with some of our football here. And the first thing, now we've been talking all these last couple of weeks about the 511 model and what the SEC wants, and what might be feasible. Are we going to 16 teams? Are we staying at 12? Well, anyway, it seems like there's a battle now between the Giants, the SEC, and the Big 18 or whatever it turns out to be. So, with this new formula, do you think that we're going to have it for this college season, or do you think that we might still be playing under the 12 game system uh, as of this year, seeing as how these two giants can't seem to find a proper meeting place? What's your thoughts on that, Dave?
Well, it depends on whether either the SEC or the Big Ten blinks. Who's going to blink? And if they don't, you can probably hear. I don't know if you could hear that. We got a thunderstorm going on. But if neither team blinks, then we'll have a 12-game season or a 12-game playoff. And I think that they have until I think
1st.
December.
Yeah,
Is it
December
December 1st? Yeah. So there's a lot of time for some either a compromise to be made or one or the other team or conferences to come around. But if they don't, and if they stick, both stick to their guns, then we'll be back to a 12-game playoff. And personally, I would prefer a 16-game playoff just to get rid of the bye games. And then I wish if I had my druthers, it wouldn't be no conference would be guaranteed certain numbers of teams. I would just go by the rankings.
Okay. How do you feel about that, Mr. Scott?
You're on mute.
I think you're muted out there, Mr. Scott.
Oh, I'm not that fluent in the college game. I've kind of avoided it. My pocketbook has limitations, and so I'm an expert pro in pro sports. I can't be beat. That's that's why I tried to tell Demetrius he's mine, but the Lions last year. I really tried to. But he decided to just make a fool of himself, and he just thought that he was just gonna just walk right in and all that thing. So yeah, so no, so I'm not well versed in the college. I'll let Dave.
Well, Jeffrey has joined us. Mr. Fan, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing really good. Glad to be
Jeffrey,
on.
good to see you again.
Jeffrey, we were just talking about this seemingly conundrum between the SEC and the Big 18. Jeffrey, how do you think this is going to play out? Are we going to have another 12-team playoff this season, or an impasse, or what do you think's going on here?
Yeah, this is the two big dogs are battling it out here to try to get the playoff format the way they want. It does look like that they've reached an impasse, and that the 12-team playoff might be around for a couple of more years. And personally, that's my favorite format. So they can kind of stalemate all they want. I think it worked great last year. overall. And even if they take away the conference champions getting the automatic bye, and they just have them as automatic qualifiers plus the at-large bids, I think 12 is a very good number. You get to 16 formats that size. I mean, you're going to be looking at multiple three lost teams in the playoffs, likely, maybe even a 8-4 SEC team. I mean, are we really want that in the format? I think at 12, it really makes the regular season still matter. I think in the end, I saw today that the Big Ten was going to, hold steady at those 4 AQ bids and try to force the SEC into a ninth conference game, which the SEC coaches and a lot of their athletic folks are against. Um, I think because the SEC commissioner Greg Sankey seems to support the 9 conference games, that might be the eventual result to get the 9 conference games for the SEC, and then the Big Ten will give up that fight for the AQ bids, which then you go to that 5+11 format. So that might end up being the long term compromise.
But Jeffrey, the ACC actually supports a 14-game playoff proposal. What would that look like?
Yeah, I think if they did have that, I mean, I think that's not that bad of a format, because likely that would be a 3-3-2-2 uh, format with one group of 5, and then the at large. I think in that way it's not so unequitable as the 4-2, and leaves open for improvement. Uh, I have heard some ACC circles looking at that, but I think right now they're truly behind the 5+11, and that's what's working against the Big Ten, because the SEC is going for the 5+11, the Big 12 is wanting the 5+11 in the ACC. So, the Big Ten's powerful. Don't get me wrong. They're one of the P2, but the SEC combined with the others, I mean, that's a lot of leverage for that 5+11. Um, yeah, there's still a lot to be decided, but that could be the one compromise, is the SEC adding a conference game, and then the Big Ten dropping their AQ bids. They're definitely out on an island. And then you see something like what Indiana just did, dropping another P4 opponent. Their resume already last year was quite questionable, and they drop a series against Virginia, who is no powerhouse, ACC program, but it's a bad look for Indiana to drop that game. And I mean, a number of Big Ten teams don't have any P4 opponents on their schedule. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State, they've played those top teams, but a lot of the mid-tier Big Ten teams, some of them haven't played any, and Indiana is just another example. I think another way they could compromise this and keep the conference games the way they want is just to have 10 P4 opponents on your schedule. Then the Big Ten has their 9. They play just one P4 out of conference opponent on the rest of their schedule. The SEC, which already plays one out of conference opponent in the P4 with their 8, they just have to add one more. And a lot of them, do play 2. The ACC with their 8, they have their Notre Dame games scheduled in, and the Big 12 plays 9. They would just have their conference games. They just have to add one. I'm not sure why that hadn't been, brought up more as a compromise point. It's just to, make it a number of 10. Doesn't matter how you schedule your conference opponents.
Yep. That's really, I think that's the best idea I've heard. I like 14, by the way. I like the 4-4-2-2-1-1, where Big Ten and SEC get 4 each, ACC and Big 12 get 2 each, one FBS champ and one at large. Because the you get your big games in your conference, but if you get your 2 cupcakes, play 9 conference games, and play one other P4 game. That's it. You could do that. In all those conferences, you can get 9 conference games, and the conferences are strong enough that you'll get the depth of games in the conference. I think it makes the conferences games more important, and the conference rivalries can come back. And I think that you get a good spread. I think when I'm not worried about this being 2 ACC teams because they can get the at-large bid and get 3 on the years where they deserve 3. I think the Big Ten and SEC fighting over that one extra qualifier makes no sense to me. I like the 14 model with a lot of what Jeff just talked about. So I think it's there. It's there. They just gotta everybody set your egos aside
Yeah.
and do what's best for the game, which they've
Well,
never done.
I didn't
Which
want to
they've
jump
never
into
done.
this. I didn't want to jump into the college, but being a long time Minnesota, Big Ten is my thing. I mean, Big Ten is but there's 18 teams in the Big Ten.
And growing, possibly 24.
And the Gophers haven't played Ohio State. They haven't played. It's almost like they're ducking the teams in their thing. So
You can fix that, though. You can fix that. That's just a
how?
scheduling thing
There's
that they
too
can
many
fix.
teams. It's 18.
No.
But Jeff would say, no, you want to play your 10 teams, and that's the way it used to be. But it's not that way anymore.
Oh, no, that train's left the station. Sorry. My feeling is at some point we're going to be talking about a couple of teams with a couple of conferences with 24 teams. There's going to be a Big Ten West when Stanford and those other schools figure it out. There'll be a Big Ten West that has 12 teams and a Big Ten East that has 12 teams, or maybe it's 20 and they have 10 teams each. But none of this is about the stuff we care about. The 5 of us care about rivalries, good games, tradition, and they don't care about any of that. They're counting dollars. They're in there with calculators, and we're trying to save traditions and nonsense like that. And they're in there with calculators, and they don't care what we're thinking. I think there's a couple of models, and most of it Jeff just covered. I don't. No disrespect to Jeff. I don't think this is rocket science. I think there's ways to do it. Sit 3 smart people in a room, give them an hour and some coffee and donuts, and this thing could get fixed. But it's too much money, too many calculators.
Dave, any thoughts on this?
No, I still like a 16 team playoff because I don't like the buys. I just don't like teams getting a buy. But like I said before, I'm not a big fan. Why do all these conferences have to have guaranteed teams? Just go by the rankings, and then and that might open it up for some teams that would not be able to get in otherwise.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. You're going to have a 16-team playoff, and 14 of the teams are going to be Big Ten and SEC. Like 13 of the teams will be to get the guarantees. I agree with you, first of all, but I think what's going to happen is I don't know how to do the rankings. Is it a committee? Is it? Do we bring back
you already have. You already have the CFP rankings. You have the AP rankings. You had several different ranking things. It could be an average. You could include, weighting the strength of schedules and the weakness of schedules.
What did that system used to be called,
They
Jeffrey?
could do that.
The BC.
Yeah, there used to be a system, a point score, like what you're talking about. It's not that old, not that long ago.
I mean, that's the way they used to determine the national champion. Well, this is just determining who gets into the championship.
Yeah.
And so why like if there's a team that's unattached that has a fantastic season, but then they're being squeezed out because there's not enough at-large bids. And if they're ranked high enough, well, then give them a chance. Because where you run the risk of having teams with more losses is when you're guaranteeing a conference 3 champions, and then they're having to play each other. Well, now you're running the bigger risk of having a team with 3 losses.
Jeffrey, where do you see the ACC in the next 2 to 4 years?
I think in the next 2 to 4 years, you're gonna see some relative stability. I think any movement. I think we're really moving towards something maybe at the end of the decade, and then who knows what the landscape is going to look at like. I know there's some rumors about someone we'll say, the Florida State or Clemson moves in 2027. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. I don't think the Big Ten and SEC are ready to make a move in the middle of their contracts after they just expanded. But now when it comes towards the end of the decade, and you're looking at 5 years from now, it's a very real possibility. But in the short term, the settlement has just been reached between the ACC and Clemson and Florida State. And if you go into the details of the settlement, it's very heavily it favors very heavily Clemson and Florida State. Some of the details, they're basically, there is no more Tobacco Road, any misconception of Tobacco Road running the conference. Florida State and Clemson are making all the decisions after that settlement. They're going to have brand initiatives, which is going to go by TV ratings. And even in a year where like Florida State was atrocious last year, they were 2-10. They were still drawing ratings that were in the middle of the pack in the ACC. So, all they have to do is start, being decent, and then they're going to be in the top three. Clemson is probably, right up there, one or two in TV ratings, and very successful on the field. So, if something were to happen sooner, we saw what happened to most of the other expansion teams having to take partial shares. It's what happened to Cal, Stanford, and SMU. It's what happened to Washington and Oregon. And with this new settlement, I don't think, they're going to jump at that chance. And then there's jump at the chance at moving right away. And then also, there's another dynamic that's come out that, we'll see how it affects things in 2030. The University of Washington AD, he hinted very heavily that he expected that the Big Ten would move to a brand initiative model in 2030, which could be not so good for a school like Minnesota, in the Big Ten, because they won't be receiving the same shares as they have in the past. But we know Ohio State, has felt like, hey, we're always on Big Noon. Why are we having to carry that burden? And for sure, if the Big Ten does it, then Alabama and Georgia are going to be wondering why, Mississippi State and Vanderbilt are making the same share. And that's an absolutely new dynamic to the whole thing. Then if you're the biggest brand in the ACC and you go and you're like the fifth biggest brand in the SEC, what's your number going to look like? I think there's a lot to be resolved before we see any movement in the next 2 to 4 years. And that's why I think we'll be headed towards the end of the decade before something really moves in the ACC.
You guys agree, Demetrius, Mr.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think he nailed it. And that was just simply a master class in leverage. Clemson and Florida State is a master class in leverage. If we go, what are you? Who are you? What do you do? You're nothing without us. So you literally give them whatever they want because you can't let them leave.
The overall thing is that now the teams get paid, and now that there's payments to these players. And so does it go by, okay, so I play for Alabama. I play for, as opposed to University of Minnesota. So I get more money just because I play in Alabama, or so there's some imbalance with this whole thing. And I think they should get paid. It's clear when you look at these stadiums, 100,000 people in these stadiums every week, for years. These colleges have been, and the coaches get millions of dollars. So this is kind of just leveling the playing field. It's going to be interesting how all this plays out because the dollars are beginning to really drive the whole thing.
Yeah, we hadn't even touched on the NIL and the college athletes status. That'd be another whole half-hour conversation of how that could affect the future. We could be talking, you could be in 2029, we could be talking about the formation of, 48 team super leagues or something.
AFC
in the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl against the NFL.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see because there's a lot of money out there, and like Jeffrey said, we haven't even talked about what's going to be the finalization of the NIL money. There's still talks in the House. Uh, Still a lot of pieces to be moved here.
Yeah, well, you just had the. I don't think it's on your agenda, but you just had. Was it the Bengal or the Brown? The rookie. He's going back to school. He left the team. He was drafted, and he's opting to play for his college team.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
can you do that? I mean, if he signed a contract, isn't he a pro? I
Well,
mean,
he
I was
might not have signed his contract. Not all the
well,
rookie contracts have been signed
can
yet.
you go to camp without signing? That's very interesting. I'd like to look into that.
well, we're going to talk about that when we talk about the Texans and one of the questions in the NFL segment here. Jeffrey, why don't you give us a preview of your top 10 offensive players in the ACC, whether they be on the line or skill players or whatever? Who's your top 10 players we should be looking at this year?
All right, yeah, I was looking at this question earlier, so I kind of went in the skill position, to focus on that. There's some really good offensive linemen in the ACC, but I was looking at the skill position, and I'm gonna start with Isaac Brown at Louisville. Um, I mean, he came off an outstanding freshman season uh, at Louisville. In a couple of the biggest games he had last year against the biggest opponents, ran for over 150 against Clemson, 170 against Kentucky. He's getting even a little bit of Heisman buzz going into the season. If you don't know him, I think by the end of the season, everyone will know Isaac Brown of Louisville. So he tops my list going into the season. Then I got Cade Klubnik at Clemson. Um, Expectations are through the roof for him going into the season. Um, he's a third year starter. He's um, got plenty of weapons around him. At Clemson is his best receiving group he's ever had with experience, and you're gonna find out in game number one where he's at on the quarterback list because he's going up against LSU and another really good quarterback that they have, with Nussmeier over there. If Cade Klubnik lives up to some of the preseason expectations, he's my number two guy. And we saw what he did again in the second half against Texas. I mean, that looked like a player that could play quarterback, anywhere in the country. He kind of put behind that Georgia game he had earlier in the year where he played really poorly, and really came along towards the end of the season. So we see if he can live up to those expectations. At number three, I got Haynes King at Georgia Tech. Um, Anybody that watched him last year against Georgia, he lit up the Georgia defense and a Kirby Smart defense in a way that just doesn't happen to Georgia. It just doesn't happen to Kirby Smart teams. And Haynes King, he lit up that defense, over 400 yards of offense, and they had no answer for him. I mean, they were able to outscore Georgia Tech and win the game after 8 overtimes. Had a little bit of a shoulder issue last year, but when he's healthy, he's one of the most underrated players in all of college football. He's experienced, Texas A&M transfer. He's won several bunch of big games at Georgia Tech, and I expect Haynes King to have a really big year. Um, for Clemson, we'll start talking about one of those wide receivers, Antonio Williams. He's projected as an early round draft pick. Good size, All-American, potential All-American, gives Cade Klubnik a big target to throw. So I got Antonio Williams at 4. At number 5, I've got Carson Beck, the Georgia transfer down at Miami. Mario Cristobal, picks up another big quarterback transfer. Last year he had Cam Ward, who ended up, being a Heisman finalist and a number 1 pick. If he gets that kind of success out of Carson Beck, Miami's got a great chance to get to Charlotte and compete for an ACC title. And going into last year, we saw at Georgia, Carson Beck was considered one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Was a little bit uneven. Then he got, his had an elbow injury in the SEC championship game. But when he's at the top of his game, he's really, really good. Then at number 6, I got Kevin Jennings, the quarterback at SMU. SMU season just turned around after he was named the starter, and he was outstanding the rest of the season, up until the game against Penn State, where he could, I gotta be honest, he had kind of a nightmare game with the pick sixes against Penn State, but for the most of the season, really dynamic player. Now he comes back in a second-year starter at SMU, and they gives SMU a chance to get back to Charlotte like they did last year. Again, got another Georgia Tech guy coming in at number 7, the running back Jamal Haynes, really versatile player, good pass catcher. He's pretty much locked in to put in 900, 1,000 yards of offense, and him and Haynes King might be the best, quarterback running back combination in the ACC. Then at number 8, I got Desmond Reed from Pittsburgh. Really solid running back, can return punts, one of the best all-purpose players in college football. And I've seen him on some All-American lists as an all-purpose player. We're going back to Clemson for my number 9 player, Bryant Westco, a young wide receiver, complementing Antonio Williams back there at wide receiver, another target for Clay Klubnik. Really showed what he could do last year. If he takes another leap, you're going to see him on some all ACC teams. So another good wide receiver for Clemson. And then, I figured I had to put at least one, non-running back wide receiver quarterback on this list. And so I put Justin Jolly of NC State from tight end, really good pass catching tight end for the Wolfpack. He's going to be one of their primary offensive weapons. I've seen him on some All-American lists here in the preseason. So if you're looking for a tight end and someone from outside of that Clemson talented group, look for Justin Jolly there at NC State is another really good player. So that's my top 10 offensive players in the ACC.
Jeffrey, has Kirby Smart secretly adapted to the portal?
I mean, I think that he has. I mean, one thing I have kind of liked about Kirby Smart is I mean, I know Dabo Swinney got all of the criticism for not embracing the portal, but I mean, I think Kirby Smart was another guy who never just went crazy picking up players. A lot of his teams are so good, they recruit so well that he's been able to build up Georgia, from the ground up and not through the portal. But I mean, he'll go out there and pick up players as he needs him. So I think he's probably softened on it a little bit, but I think you're going to still see Georgia build through recruiting. Same with Clemson. Dabo Swinney has now started to embrace the portal a little bit more. But I think those are two coaches that are, they're going to pretty much stay true to their nature, and that's to build up through recruiting and to kind of be selectively hitting the portal.
You guys got any final questions for Jeffrey before we let him go?
Yeah, Jeff, of course, I'm a Pittsburgh sports fan, but what do you see the ceiling is for Pitt? I know that their floor might only be 3 or 4 wins, but what do you see their ceiling is in the ACC this year?
Well, I think they've got a really good young quarterback coming
Holstein?
back. Holstein. Yeah. I mean, the ACC is really loaded at quarterback, so you don't hear Holstein's name come up, with the Klubniks and the Haynes Kings and the Jennings and the Carson Beck. Even, Louisville has a USC transfer, Miller Moss, who put up a lot of big stats. So Holstein kind of gets lost in the shuffle, but he can play. And, I talked about Desmond Reed there on offense. giving him a real weapon there. So I mean, I see Pittsburgh as a team that's kind of under the radar right now, probably put in the middle of the pack, but one that you can't assume is not going to not be able to compete, for a shot to Charlotte. I mean, it wasn't, but last year they started the year 7-0, ranked in the top 20 before, the bottom totally fell out. And Narduzzi he's had a couple of really good teams, um, in the recent past. I mean, he won an AC, um, went to an ACC, title game.
With Kenny Pickett, was
Yeah,
that back when Pickett was there?
Yeah, that was, I think the Pickett years, won 11 games that year, then won 9 the next year. Then he had the 3-win season, but we know that in a given year, Pittsburgh can, produce a big season. So that I'm more optimistic than pessimistic, uh, on Pittsburgh. I feel like, they are probably starting the year in the middle of the pack, but I think there's a better chance for them to break through than to like have a Florida State collapse, because just because of the talent they have at quarterback and having a player like Reed on offense, and then usually being, decent on defense.
All right, thank you.
Jeffrey, as always, man, we thank you for your time and for coming in and sharing with us. Tell us, what you got coming up in the ACC, where they can find you, and we look forward to talking to you again soon. The next time we'll be talking about the 10 top defensive players in the ACC.
Oh yeah, that would be good. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, there on your screen, at Talking ACC Sports. Um, Little bit of a quiet period right now, but ACC Media Days is next week, and that's when you can really feel like the season's starting. I know they had Big 12 Media Days last week, SEC Media Days this week, but the ACC is getting it started next week, and talking about some of the players I've already listed. I know there's going to be a ton of interviews with what's going on with Bill Belichick. Dabo Sweeney again, having a Clemson team that looks like they can, really make some noise this year. So, keep an eye out for the media days, and I'll be blogging at allsportsdiscussion.com. What comes out of there, some of the preseason rankings, preseason all ACC teams. And, right now we're just going through our list of players, looking at the best case, worst case for each ACC team, trying to get ready for the season, which is, just like 4.5, 5 weeks away, just around the corner.
Yeah, as you said, and looking forward to a great college football season.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. And hey, we look to talk to you again in a week or two.
Great. Thanks for having me. Good to see everyone.
All right, Jeff. Thank you so much. All right, guys, let's get to our NFL discussion here. And
I think we missed something Mr. Scott tried to say, but he's muted, so we didn't
Yeah,
get to hear you.
What I was going to say, I wanted Jeffrey to hear that I don't think Belichick is going to even coach. I don't think he's going to make it to the season. I think there's just too much. I think it's just going to be too much foolishness. It's just not going to work.
He has his hands full, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I just think, I don't see how this is going to work. I would almost bet he's not going to coach a game for North Carolina.
This is upside down world, because I am 100% in agreement with him again. I think Belichick is kind of doing a general manager role. He's got his son on the staff. I don't think he's going to coach a game. I don't think this is going to work either. This is crazy, because I don't know what to say other than I think he's right, and I'm not used to saying that. That's not something I like saying.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I wanted to talk to Jeffrey about see what he thought about it.
When we get him back next time, I wonder. By then, Belichick will probably be gone. So we won't matter.
No, well, it should just be the second week of press week. I'll get him back in a couple of weeks. Belichick will still be there. What he'll be doing is we'll see.
That's what I think. We're gonna get some announcement that he's an advisor or some kind of thing, and his son is gonna actually be doing the coaching. I don't. Plus, he's got work, bro. He made 28. How old is that girl? I'm sorry. He got real work at home. He got real work at home. He got time to be coaching the football team.
Okay, guys. Getting on this NFL topic here. We have something this year that we have not seen. At least I haven't while watching NFL rookies or anyone else. But this year we have a unique situation where we have 30 of the 32 second round picks have not been signed. And a lot of people say that the reason for this anomaly is because of what the Texans did with their rookie, Mr. Higgins. And that was give him a guaranteed contract, regardless whether he's hurt, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm number 2, and I'm getting paid. So, Demetrius, is this setting a dangerous precedent when your second round pick is a fully guaranteed contract?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think. Well, I challenge the word dangerous. I don't have a problem with it. I'm not going to act like $11.7 million is nothing. But if you do your job, when your GM is Brad Holmes, I'll guarantee our second round picks. Do your job. Your second round pick should be a contributor to your football team. It should be a dude you want to eventually sign to a second contract anyway. If you are scared about missing on your second round picks, you might need to fire your GM. I don't think it's as big a deal, right? You gave, what does Mr. Scott call him? The quarterback in Cleveland got all the money? Mr. Massage. You gave Mr. Massage 220 or 230, and we're having a conversation about a second round pick. And maybe it's just me, but every guy on this podcast roots for a team whose GMs are good at their job. I actually like all 3 GMs that are on this podcast. I assume that Tate Ratledge, the Lions' second round pick, is going to be our starting guard for the next 5 years. I wouldn't give a damn if they signed him to a guaranteed deal because I have that kind of confidence in Brad Holmes' ability to draft. So is it setting a precedent? Probably. I think Cleveland was the other team. I think they did it with the guy I picked before. So 2 guys in the whole league. Yeah. And if I'm an agent, yep, I am sitting there going, yeah, my guy's going to need all the bags. I'm going to need that stack, both of those stacks, and the nickels and dimes as well. So, yep, is it setting a precedent? Yes. I would argue if it's dangerous. I think if your guy's worth a damn, there's not a lot of risk in your second round pick guaranteeing him for 4 years. Because if you're good, that dude should be a critical part of your rotation for the next 4 years anyway. So just pay him now. But if you don't have confidence that your GM knows how to pick players in the second round, I guess this is dangerous. I guess. But I don't. I'll give Tate Ratledge 4 years guaranteed right now because I need him to be our starting guard for the next 4 years. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. I don't. It's $11 million.
You just might be. I mean, because Demetrius said when you make your soliloquies about teams, a lot of times you're spot on. I'll have to admit that. But when you talk about the Lions, there's a bias there. There's a bias.
I said all the teams. I like Kwame or if
bias,
whatever your guy's name is.
A second round draft pick that hasn't played a game, and you're going to lock him up and pay him. I mean, and then you're going to blame the GM if it doesn't work out. I mean, that's
Mr. Scott, who was your second round pick?
I'd have to look that. I don't have it.
Okay. Because this guy is going to be, I'm pretty sure he's going to have some impact on Mr. McCarthy.
Well, you'd hope so. But I mean, we've seen this year after year where free agents, guys that get hurt to get a chance. I mean, football is really one of the great sports where somebody can come out of the woodwork and be a great player. And so this draft is not an exact science. It's never been in any sport. It's not an exact science. And so
I absolutely agree with you. You're right. Minnesota didn't have a second round pick this year, by the way. But my point is, if you
I
did,
traded it away.
yeah, wouldn't you expect? I mean, am I wrong, guys? Don't we expect our second round picks to make our team, literally be in our rotations and play, right?
Well, we didn't have one either. But Dave, what's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's really going to depend on what the other teams do. I mean, first you had the Texans, and they've had a lot of missteps over the past few seasons, and then you got the Clowns doing it.
Right.
So really, the question is do the other teams follow suit? And they've always, for the past few years anyway, second round picks typically did get some part of their contract guarantee. It's a matter of degree, but by fully guaranteeing these second round picks, well, then all the first round picks are going to expect fully guaranteed contracts. So it's a slippery slope. Whether it's good or bad, I think that the NFL makes so much money. There's so much money out there that it's just a matter of, okay, how big are the slices that different people are going to get? And typically, what's happened in the bargaining units, the Players Association has short shrifted the rookies in favor of the star players. And so here now, the one thing that they're able to hanker on is, hey, guarantee my contract. And I think that the rookie players are at the most risk, because even a second round pick is not, as you go down from the first 10 picks to the rest of the first round, to the second round, the third round, it becomes increasingly less of a chance of making the roster or being a regular player.
Yeah, but
So
first round picks contracts are already guaranteed, by the way. The first 4 years are. There's a team option for the fifth year, but right now, first round picks in the NFL get fully guaranteed 4-year contracts.
Well, but that wasn't always the case. And so what you're having is you're having a shift here. And now if you go down into the second round, well, then the risk that the teams are taking is how much dead money are they going to be taking if players don't make the team. Injuries are always there, and I think that injuries were always guaranteed for the first year at least. And but then the other factor coming in is I think players are starting to say, hey, I'll stay in school. I can make money in the NIL. And that's just another interesting factor in this whole thing. But I think at the end of the day, the NFL, the owners are going to end up adapting.
That's
because there's all this money out there, and it just depends on. It becomes another negotiation tool whenever they go back to the CBA.
Right.
And then it depends on, okay, how are we going to use this as leverage in order to get something else, a concession? And that's both by the Players Association as well as by the owners. They're all looking for their leverage.
Yeah.
So
right now, they can't go back to school. Shamar Stewart is saying that's negotiating. He entered his name into the NFL draft. He got drafted. He could challenge the antitrust exemption in court, and he might win. But right now, he can go work out at Texas A&M, but he can't play. He can't go back and play.
He was practicing with them this summer.
Yeah, he can work out and practice with them all he wants. The Cleveland Browns own his rights, and they own him for at least a year. So he
doesn't have unless he signed a contract with them. He doesn't have a contract with them, or they have the signing rights.
Exactly. That's what
I mean. Okay. They have the signing, and that's going back old school.
Exactly. That's still old school. They're never giving that up. But he can go work. He can't play. The NCAA is not going to let him play because there was a time frame to enter your name in the draft and pull it out. Once he allowed his name to be entered in the draft and he got drafted, he can't go back and play. I mean, like I said, he can legally challenge that and I think he might win. Quite frankly, I don't know if that's his plan. I think Shamar Stewart is negotiating right now, and
Well,
Cleveland is the
if
team to
he
do that with because he'll probably win anyway.
but if he challenges it and he wins and then he sets the precedent, well then that goes then the concept
Yep.
of the signing rights goes away.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then this was the bedrock of the NFL going
Sure.
back to before they even had a draft.
Yep. But you nailed it. He can go back to Texas A&M and get a fat NIL check.
Yeah.
Maybe not comparable to what he'll get in the NFL, but he's not going to be broke.
Yeah.
And back in the day, it was food or not food, and it's not that anymore.
Yeah.
He can go.
But
back
I
and
think
get
what's
an NIL.
happening. But my point is what's happening now is there's a lot of shifting ground.
Yep.
And but over the long haul, you're still going to have this huge pot of money that the NFL, between the Players Association and the owners, are going to dicker over how are we going to carve that up. And so we'll have to see what happens with the next few. It says 30 out of 32 haven't been signed. Well, let's see what happens with the next 4 or 5 players, and if they all start getting fully guaranteed contracts, well then we've had a change. Or it could be that, hey, it's become an anomaly because the other teams held firm and didn't give their second round picks full contracts.
Yeah, but what if you declare for the draft and you don't get drafted?
That's a different situation altogether. If you don't get drafted, you can go back in the pool, right? Or the portal.
You're just an undrafted free agent. You can sign with anybody. They own his rights, and then next year's draft, he doesn't get to go back into the draft next year. It has to be a full year after that. They still own his rights. He won't be able to get drafted again next year. Then the following year, he can get drafted again. If he's willing to sit out.
But you mean the NFL can prevent a player from playing with a college? That would have to be an NCAA rule.
No. The NFL, he can't play for any team but the Cleveland Browns if he plays in the NFL. That's what I'm saying.
Because they signed
for at least 2 years.
Correct. Yeah, but I'm saying
if you're NFL, he's playing for the Cleveland Browns.
If you're not drafted, if you declare you want to go to pro, but then they don't draft you, can you just go back and play college?
Well, that depends on the NCAA rules, and I'm thinking that if you declare yourself for the draft, they may make you ineligible. But I'm not. That would be an NCAA rule.
It is a rule, and you can petition to go back. And if you were not drafted, I think 3 years ago, I think it happened. 2 or 3 years ago, it happened. He petitioned. He wasn't drafted. Never signed with a team. Never went to camp with a team. Never did OTAs with a team.
He regained his eligibility.
And he had a year of eligibility left, and they gave it back to him. And it wasn't even that eventful. He hadn't done anything except worked out. So there was no reason not to let him go back. So they gave him back that year of eligibility. The key is the draft. If you get drafted, you're not playing in NFL for any team except the team that drafted you for at least 2 years. You have to go through 2 cycles.
The other thing that will be interesting is if the player does get a court case, then there's discovery, and that's something that the NFL
never going to happen.
They don't want the camel.
They are not opening the books. The NFL is not opening the books for anybody.
No, you can.
So they might just let him go back.
They would. I think if it came to that, or it's like, let's go to court and you got to open the book. No, they have never opened. They've never opened it. They don't have to. It's 32 people who have an agreement amongst themselves, and they don't have to open their books for anybody. They're a privately held club. They are Augusta National. They can let. But
the exception to it is if you have a court case and then discovery comes into play.
But there will never be a discovery case.
They'll settle. They'll settle before it gets to that point.
They wouldn't settle. They'll just let it go. Like what you're talking about is, would the NFL say the Browns don't care if he goes back to Texas A&M? That's the NCAA that cares about that. The Browns say you're not playing for another NFL team except us. If he wants to go back to Texas A&M, nobody in Cleveland will care. They're okay if that's what you want to do. Go ahead.
Yeah.
He has to go to court for the NCAA to allow him to be eligible to play at Texas A&M. And the Cleveland Browns don't give a damn about that.
But the NFL seems to be lowering their pool of players. I mean, because here, okay, I'm a fourth year senior. I declare, nobody drafts me, well, I'll just go back and make more money than I would make as a bench
That's
player.
still,
Undrafted free agent.
but that still doesn't guarantee that you'll get an NFL contract.
Well,
No,
I guess
but
my
I mean, you
statement
can
would
go
be
back
this.
to college and get more money than you'd make as
I
a
don't
But
know.
bench
you can only
player.
go back for 1 year, Mr.
If you
Mr.
didn't
Scott.
get drafted
That's
in a
fine,
7-round
because a
NFL
bench
draft,
player can get cut. A bench player, these guys come in and they cut these guys all the time. They bring 100
sure.
guys into camp,
Yeah,
and
but
only
if
half
you
of them
are
get a sniff
if
at
you
it.
didn't get drafted in a 7-round NFL draft, I don't think you got a big NIL deal waiting for you.
Yeah.
You're probably a pretty good college player. I don't know that you're going to get paid a bunch of money to go back. If you were that good, you'd have gotten drafted. You'd have got invited as an undrafted free agent to an NFL camp. If you have any level of skill, that league will give you a job, at least through training camp. So and you're not going to get more NIL money than you might. But if you're that good, you're in the league. If you're good enough to get like the kid at Texas Tech, Ojo
Yeah.
or whatever his name is, the $5 million he got, he's on an NFL roster day after tomorrow.
Yeah, whether he makes it or not, he's definitely on a roster.
So in
But
terms of like value, I don't think the value of any NIL deal will ever match the value of a pro deal. If you're good enough to get a $5 million NIL deal, you're probably good enough to play in the league and get 40 over the length of the contract. So I don't know if that's a threat to them. And there's always some dude out there who wants to play football. If any one of us could suit up, we'd go play. I mean,
hey,
That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see you suit up. I'd love to
No,
see
I-
that. Yeah.
no,
see?
I have never come on this podcast and said I would play NFL football. You got me confused. That's Bill Carroll. I'm a baseball player, bro. I'm a baseball player.
I'd like to
I'll
see
suit
that.
up.
He,
Oh,
he wasn't here for your first remarks, Demetrius.
Yeah.
But that might be a little interesting, though. Mr. Scott's a baseball player. You're a baseball. Do you
If
guys?
he can't throw a curveball, I got a shot. As long as he throws me fastballs, I'll catch up to it eventually. If he drops a curveball on me, I'm going home. I'm taking my talents home.
What was your best position, Mr. Scott?
I was a shortstop.
Oh,
And that's when the Twins came in town and they had this guy named Zoilo Versalles. And I'm telling you, that guy was my guy, and he started wearing glasses and I started wearing glasses. He was the MVP the year that they went to the World Series. It was the hugest thing because the Twins had just came here in 61 when I was 10, 11 years old. And then they went to the World Series, and I'm telling you, that was the World Series for the ages. I mean, with Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale and Jim Mudcat Grant hit a home run to win one of the games. I mean, it was just, as a kid, it was just one of the most wonderful things, to see them in the World Series, and the teachers at school would just put the TV in so we could watch the game in school. They would bring a TV in, because my shop teacher, he just loved baseball. We would sit there and talk about it. So yeah, that's my good memory.
That's the beauty of baseball right there. He's supposed to be my arch nemesis, and I freaking love that story.
Rod Carew and Tony Oliva and Harmon.
It's great.
Harmon Killebrew was one of my main. You talk about a pure power hitter, pure power hitter. So Bob Allison. That was a great youthful thing. Dad took me to the games to see the Yankees. First game I ever went to, and we went early for the batting practice. Man, I'm looking at number 9, number 7, number 8, just sitting there waiting there. Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, Hector Lopez.
You had Jim Cott on there, right? With the no wind-up pitch.
Jim Cott was on the Twins, who I actually saw him pitch 20 years later. I was in Philadelphia, and I was watching a game. I went to the stadium. He comes in to relieve, and Pete Rose was on the team with Philadelphia there.
That's it. We're just doing baseball the rest of the night, James. Forget your script. We're all going to do our baseball stories.
I'll end with Pete Rose hit a ball to right field, ran around the base, hat flies off, dives into third base. I mean, it was just.
That's why
Yeah, I
baseball's
mean,
great.
yeah,
Like,
baseball. You can tell baseball is my thing. So
it's it. When I listen to my arch nemesis tell that story and I love it, you know baseball is awesome. Because the rest of the Lions Vikings don't matter. I got a whole story about the 84 Tigers. How much time do you want to give me? Do we even care about the rest of the podcast? Because Dave's got a story.
Yes,
Dave's got a story.
yeah, Sparky
yes, we
Lyle
do.
and Sparky Lyle
So,
and Willie
Oh,
Horton
sorry.
and Gates.
Go ahead.
Gates Brown was my main
Gates
man.
Brown.
Big shit,
Gates Brown. Oh, he's killed right now. He's talking 68 team. I can do 68 or 84, whatever you want me to do.
Oh,
But I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll give you your podcast back. You blame that on Mr. Scott.
What was your best position, Demetrius?
Center field. Chester Lemon, baby. All flashy, catching the fly balls like it was nothing, just on the side of his head. Chet Lemon was on that team. Lance Parrish, the big wheel, was the catcher. I could do this now because the 84 team, everything he said, I'm just going to, me and my dad and my brothers, listen to Ernie Harwell on the radio while we was raking leaves and cutting the grass and working in the garage. We knew at the end of April, Tigers winning the World Series. We knew it. They created a song like the Super Bowl Shuffle. It was called Bless You Boys. We knew it. We knew it in early May that team was going to win. Kirk Gibson was on that team. Trammell and Whitaker, the best second base shortstop combo ever. They traded for Darrell Evans, his big power hitting first baseman. Tommy Brookins was at third.
Did Whitaker ever get in the Hall of Fame?
No, I've done final thoughts on getting Lou Whitaker in the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
I did the final thoughts on that. No, and I'm
Trammell being there. He's not in there. You know,
it's crazy. That team was amazing, and Sparky was the manager. And I challenge somebody to tell me they hate Sparky Anderson. Find a person on the planet that hated Sparky Anderson. I want to meet him. You can't. So center field. When I was shorter and faster, I had wheels, and I covered ground. And I would try and catch it without kind of all flashy like Chet Lemon would do. Because Chet Lemon made center field look easy.
What kind of stick did you have?
Oh, I could hit fastballs. Hand-eye was great. If you had a hook, if you could throw me a curveball, you got me. Because I couldn't see it coming out of your hand, and I certainly couldn't see the break. But I could hit fastballs all day.
You were a Punch and Judy. Sound like you're kind of a Punch and Judy type hitter.
Oh, absolutely. But if I could steal bases, my Punch and Judy single is now a double. Because I had wheels, so I could cover ground in center, and I stole bases. So I mean, it's like, that was my game. Because if I'm on base, I'm scoring. If I'm on first and you put in the gap, I'm walking easy. I'll walk home. Because when I was younger, I was shorter. I was 5'11", 180, 185. I had wheels. And then I got to Michigan State and I grew 3 inches and gained 40 pounds. Next thing I know, I'm 6'4", 240. You can't play center field there. What are you doing? But I blew my Achilles, so it didn't matter.
You better find some catcher's equipment.
Well, once my Achilles was gone, those days I had to study. If it was like, oh shit, I got to study. But I was never gonna play. I was never gonna play single A because I couldn't hit curveballs. I couldn't see curveballs. Forget about hitting them. I couldn't see them. It looked like a fastball to me. I'm backing out, and that thing is on the other side of the plate because arm angles, the spin. Now, but if you just keep throwing me fastballs, I'm gonna time you up sooner or later. I'm going to park one in center field, park it in left field, and I'm on second, and somebody singles and I score. That was my job. If I was a single, I'm going to steal second, score anyway. So that was what I did. So
I want to just tell this to Dave. I want to just tell this to Dave real quick.
What's that?
They had a game last weekend, the Pirates and the Twins, okay? And because I'm a distinguished alumni, when they had a big day for the Mankato State College, and I'm a distinguished alumni. So they invite me and they give me a jersey, but the game had Joe Ryan against the guy Gaines. Is that his name?
Right.
Yep. The second best pitcher.
And I wanted to go to that game so bad, but my son said, "Can you watch my daughter? I got to do an extra shift tonight." Nice. So I had to watch it on TV. But boy, was it a duel!
Paul Skeens phenomenal.
Just with the Pirates, they don't have any lumber for him.
Yep,
I think he's still under a 2 ERA, and he has a losing record.
I did a final thoughts on Paul Skeens last year when I was mad at baseball and said because he plays in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, little kids don't know who he is. But if he played in New York or Chicago or LA, they would all know his name. Because
he's going to be in New York or Chicago or LA in the next couple of years. It won't be long. He'll be out of there.
They have him under team control for another 3.5 years. So I think if they give him up, get the world. Make some team pay you for him because he's worth it. You can rebuild your team on a trade like that. Paul Skeens
Yeah,
is,
because
if you love
they're
baseball,
wasting his talent right now.
right, right. If you love baseball, watching a Skeens, kind of like Tarek Skubal in Detroit, watching these guys. Skubal had 13 strikeouts and 1 walk in 7 innings.
I told Anthony about
13
Gaines. Remember that?
strikeouts.
Yeah, you mentioned that quite a while ago, and I was watching him, and I really hate that I missed that game because Joe Ryan, I'm telling you, he's another young guy that's really coming up with the Twins. He won't be here long either. He'll be, he'll be moved out.
Dave,
Detroit
everybody's told
Detroit
a baseball story but you, Dave.
What's that?
I said everybody's told a baseball story but you.
Oh, I used to be a huge Pirates fan.
I'm gonna go
I went to Forbes
1979 Willie
Field.
Stargell.
The only game I went to in Pittsburgh at Forbes Field, I was a kid. We didn't have the money to go, but my older brother, he got me into the game. And Bill Mazeroski had 2 errors in the same game, which is like, it just doesn't happen with Bill Mazeroski.
Yeah.
And they were playing the Braves, and it wasn't Phil Niekro pitching for the Braves, but I think it was his brother Joe Niekro pitching.
He pitched for the Twins for a while. He got caught.
Spitball guy. Yeah.
He got caught with some sandpaper.
I mean, for me, that being able to be in that at Forbes Field watching that game, that was a highlight as a little kid, because I could never go to the games because I never had money.
We're just gonna let him get away with saying his brother got him into the game. We're not gonna dig into that at all.
I was a young kid. I don't remember what he did or how he got me in there.
That's awesome. It's beautiful though. Like that's the thing. You guys know how I feel about the Lions, but baseball is the first love. Just like Mr. Scott. It's 84 Tigers. That's whole summer. The summer of 84, I was 15 years old. Magic.
I went to the old Tiger Stadium. And Cecil Fielder was playing first base.
Yep.
He hit a home, and I looked at this guy. I said, how can this big fat guy basically? But boy, he was real dexterous around the base.
Yeah.
Oh,
he had 51 home runs in 51
and he had a
home
run that day. He had a home run that day when
it was a big deal in 91 to hit 51 homers. He had been playing in Japan. They signed him for next to nothing. Toronto had let him walk. Nobody wanted to sign him. He went over to Japan and hit a ridiculous number of homers. Tiger signed him. He came back in it's 90 or 91, hit 51 homers. That late in that summer, it was, can he get to 50? 50 home runs was a big deal, right? Because this is before McGuire and Sosa and all the nonsense.
Right.
It was a big deal in Detroit. Was he going to get to 50? He hit 2 home runs on the last day and got to 51. He had 49 going. It might have been the next to last day. Had 49 going. He hit 2 of them. I still got the newspaper from his 51st home run, the front page of that. I've got it.
This is the kind of baseball fan I was. So when we moved from Pittsburgh to Maryland, I was still in elementary school. And at that time, like this would have been like late, I guess early 70s, 71. Well, at that time, the FCC didn't really have tight control on the radio signals. Yep. Now they can, you cross a certain line and then the radio signal you lose. Back then, the radio station, as much power as they could get out, they could get it out. Well, KDKA, the Pittsburgh station, you could pick up in the DC area and you would get static. But I had a buddy of mine, he was from Newcastle, Fred Hassan, and on school nights, we're supposed to be doing our homework where we're each at each other's houses and we're tuning into the Pirates game, and you would hear this static. But Bob Prince was the announcer, and he had like this really raspy voice. And for some reason, his voice just cut right through the static.
That's awesome.
And he was like, when he had like a word like a hoover. We need a hoover there. So the other team had a guy on base, and there was one out. He was looking for a double play.
Yeah.
A hoover was a Hoover vacuum cleaner.
Yep.
And you had Chicken on the Hill with Will. So when Willie Stargell, if he hit a home run, he had a chicken place, fried chicken place in the Hill District. Well, then if he hit a home run, they gave free chicken to whoever was in the restaurant at that time. And then Bob Prince would be talking about, we got chicken on the hill with Will. And my buddy and I, then we would be talking on the phone the whole time. That's why I had such horrible grades, because we were just listening to the Pirates games for nights on end, and then comparing notes on how the game went. But
that's the difference in baseball and every other sport. We've all got those stories. That radio station in Detroit's called WJR 760. You could hear it in 38 states after dark. When the sun goes down, a bunch of stations that only use a certain amount of watts of power. WJR was 50,000 watts all the time. 37 states after dark, you could pick up Tiger games. Ernie Harwell is my Bob Prince. Is that his name? Was that his name?
Yeah.
Bob Prince.
Bob Prince. My Bob Prince is Ernie Harwell. I'm sure Mr. Scott's got a name for us of that dude that you remember listening to him call the games.
Herb Carnell.
There you go. There you go.
Herb Carnell was the best. I mean, and then they had a guy, Ray Scott, who also used to be the Packers.
Oh, yeah. I know
and
that.
then
Yeah.
they did the Twins at the beginning, of the stadium,
That's it. You don't hear those stories about NFL teams. Maybe,
All right,
maybe,
guys.
but it's different. Go ahead. Sorry. If you want to do the rest of your
all right,
podcast,
guys,
go ahead.
I've let you guys turn the podcast into a Major League Baseball segment.
Perfect.
But hey, I know you guys all enjoy talking baseball, and I'm sure our listeners do enjoy hearing you guys reminisce. So, but let's go on. We only got a couple more questions here. And I know these last three are going to cause some controversy. I
Yep.
have some.
We've gotten together for too long. It's time to get back to the real world,
Time
right?
to get back to the real.
Time for me and Scott to get back to the real world.
All right, Mr. Scott. The Vikings are projected to have one of the NFL's top offensive lines, but they're also projected to finish 8-9. Jefferson says he wants JJ to have as much confidence in him as he has in JJ. Mr. Scott, is there a little lacking of confidence here in JJ? I know we haven't seen a big sample size, but he does have at least the number one or two, however you want to pick it, wide receiver in pro football right now. Also, Mr. Scott, what's your thoughts here? This 8-9 projection. You've got a good running back. I mean, what's going on? Is it a lack of confidence in JJ or what? You got one of the best tight ends in football.
Yeah, this is really a bait question. I mean, this is really, but this 8-9, this you can throw that out the window because that was probably done by Demetrius.
No,
he's
Yahoo
the one
Sports actually.
Oh, yeah, but he's co-signed it. If he didn't say it, he's co-signing. So if he didn't say it, he's co-signing it. No, things are straight ahead here. This team with a backup guy, Sam Darnold, went 14-2, and he just fell apart in the playoffs. I mean, he just like a cheap suit in the rain. It was all over with for him. But now they've groomed this gentleman. He was a number one pick, a 10th pick in the draft. They've put everything around him. And I'm not going to go full-blown Demetrius. I'm not going to make a fool of myself. But we're looking very good. We're looking very good. And
so good.
We'll let it play out. We've got a tough schedule where we got to go overseas to play 2 games in a row, which is ridiculous to me why they would do that. But this is the greed that, this is part of the league. So, and then we have to play Pittsburgh where we'll dispose of them. And I can't remember the other team that we play over there, but yeah, no, I have no concerns whatsoever. I'm not going to go full-blown Demetrius. I'm not going to make a fool of myself. I'm not going to do that. But we're looking very, very, very good, and I'm looking for the matchups, especially when we play the Lions. And maybe I might even want to put maybe a little bit of action on that. You never know. But, yeah, I'm feeling good about things going with the Vikings and, this 8-9. No, I haven't heard that. I don't pay any attention to that. That's, just, talking points, from man in Detroit. We don't pay attention to that.
Okay. All right. Demetrius, Lions running back Jamar Gibbs says that he's going to have a more varied role in the offense. Well, actually, the offense kind of dictates it,
This guy, this
considering
guy,
his
this
the way
guy.
that they came through last year. But one of the questions I have for you, Demetrius, is what's that O line going to look like after the retirement of Frank Ragnow?
Yeah.
Another there's some rumors that the Lions might be eyeing Von Miller. What's tell us what's going on up there in the Motor City, Demetrius?
Yeah. So first, Bill's backstage would like to get in if you want to take care of that. Second, Von Miller signed with the Commanders. I don't know, 10 minutes ago. I got the notification because as a real
Oh,
fan, I
okay.
am realistically on top of what's going on with my team. Unlike others, I don't even know how to deal with him running when he knows I'm about to bring the smoke. So you know what, Mr. Scott and I have gotten along all night. I'm gonna be cool. I'm gonna be cool. Bill's here. I'm gonna behave myself. I'm not gonna embarrass that grown man. Bill, you missed an hour and a half of me and Mr. Scott getting along just great, and then he just dropped a bunch of bullshit and ran. Sorry, we're well after time. I can say that, right? So let me answer your questions. People worry about the coordinators leaving. I don't. Um, I talk about the guy who picked Ben Johnson 3.5 years ago, picked the new coordinator. I know what the culture is of my team. Frank Ragnow's a loss. I'm actually concerned, right? In the interior of our offensive line, we are either very old or very young. Graham Glasgow can play all three spots. Our second round pick, Tate Ratledge out of Georgia, and our fifth round pick, Miles Frazier out of LSU, probably have some position flexibility. But I'm honest about my team. I am concerned. Frank Ragnow is one of the best 2 or 3 centers in the league. We're going to miss him. We got a question mark there. That being said, we're still the best team in that division. We still got 12 or 13 wins on the schedule, including 2 against Minnesota, like we've done the last 2 years. I don't even worry about Minnesota anymore. I mean, they're so automatic wins. I just think that we need to stay healthy. If Hayden Hudson is healthy, Lee McNeil gets healthy, on paper, and they don't play the games on paper. I know that, but I know the talent we have. The Lions are one of the 2 or 3 most talented teams in the NFC. Period. I got to give the Eagles respect. They got the trophy. I got to give the Commanders respect. They knocked us out. I don't have to give shit to the Vikings because we've beaten them 6 of the
Do
last
we
7
have to
times.
keep listening to this? Do we have
Can you
to?
mute him? Can you
I
mute
mean,
him,
can
Zach?
this be
I'll
cut?
mute him if you want. I don't have to worry about the Vikings. We
Can this
own them.
be? Yeah,
We own them.
you know, this
Sheila Ford
shouldn't be
has
biased.
property in Minneapolis. Sheila Ford Hamp owns property in Minneapolis. It's not a big deal. So to answer your question, Jameer is going to be used a little more in the passing game. He's more of a weapon. He's going to look a lot more like a McCaffrey, and David Montgomery is going to handle kind of the grind. I think both guys are healthy. They're going to be solid. I don't know if they're going to be as good as last year because Frank, like our offensive line, the interior of our offensive line is the only concern and staying healthy. We still have the best roster in the NFC North. We still have the best coach in the NFC North. We still have the best quarterback in the NFC North. We got the best team in the NFC North. We have beaten the Vikings 7 of the last 8 times they've played. I don't know what metrics you use to tell if one team is better than the other. I'll ask Bill. But do a hammer and a nail have a rivalry, Bill? I don't think a hammer and a nail have a rivalry. I think the nail doesn't get it.
Well,
The
Bill
nail
is an
the nail
unbiased.
gets on a
I'd rather
podcast.
hear from
The
Bill.
nail gets on a
We've heard
podcast
enough.
and thinks they have a
We've
rivalry,
heard enough
but
of
the
this.
hammer knows the truth.
Let's get a neutral person. Let's hear a neutral
No,
person.
look,
Well, wait a
Dave's
minute,
too nice.
hold on, Mr.
Dave's too
Scott.
nice.
We listen to you, Mr. Scott. Come on now, we
Yes.
got an equal time.
I'll wrap up and answer your questions. Jameer Gibbs is going to put up 2,000 all-purpose yards from scrimmage. I don't see that being an issue outside of injury. Von Miller signed with the Commanders an hour ago or whenever it was. I think we're going to bring back Zadarius Smith and we'll be fine. My only real concern is nobody in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's for damn sure. My only real concern is we are really young or really old in the middle of our offensive line. And if Christian Mahogany steps up, we'll be fine. If Tate Ratledge is everything we think he is, we'll be fine. If Coyote Owasika can get better as he has the last 2 years, we'll be fine. Nobody in Minneapolis scares me. I don't really care about that.
I think I won.
Our
I think I
floor
won
is
a
11
wager.
wins.
I think I won a wager with
Our
Demetrius
floor is 11
last
wins.
year. I won
Our
a
ceiling is 40.
wager. I won a wager with Demetrius, and he refused to pay because I said that I
How
covered.
could you possibly win a wager?
Covered. You said that there was no covering. There was no, it was a close game. So yeah,
Whatever you think you won, hit me up offline. I'll send you whatever you want. It's fine. All I know is we beat you 7 of the last 8 times. So whatever you think I owe you, let me know. It's worth it to remind you that we've won 7 of the last 8 games.
All right,
That's all
guys.
that matters in our conversation.
I think I'm gonna have to rewind the first hour of this.
Sorry. Go ahead, Jay. He started
but hey, the controversy is always amazing. I love
Right?
it. Bill,
We tricked people into thinking we were friends, and now we're back to where we should be.
Bill, I'm going to do a couple questions here because I want to ask you. We've already talked about it, and that's the first one is about the 30 of 32 second round draft picks that have remained unsigned. Bill, considering the fully guaranteed contract that the Texans gave to Higgins, do you think that this is going to now become the exception or is it going to be the rule? Have you muted yourself, Bill?
No, you muted me or somebody muted me. But so the answer is neither. It's going to neither become the exception nor the rule. It's going to be a case-by-case thing. For teams that, one, are not as worried about paying guaranteed money or have a financial situation where it is more comfortable for them to guarantee contracts, they will do so. Even for some especially second rounders they really want. It'll come down to how much they want the player, what positions the player play, how old is the player, what's in the player's background in terms of behavioral issues, all that stuff. It's going to be a case by the same way it used to be for guaranteed money for other players. It used to be on a case-by-case basis. I don't think we'll ever get to a point where every second rounder gets fully guaranteed contracts. And obviously we are done with no second rounders getting fully guaranteed contracts. So neither of those things is going to become the standard, though. It will always be non-standard. Hey, do you play a premium position? Are you a particularly young prospect? Are you a freak show athletically? Or does our coaching staff love you, like deeply, deeply love you more than normal? Then you might get a guaranteed contract. Do we have more money lying around than other teams? Then you might get a fully guaranteed contract. The reason that teams do not like to fully guarantee contracts, for reasons that I think everyone may have already guessed, is that life in general is uncertain. Life in the NFL is particularly uncertain. That's why we have so much money tied up in gambling, right? The magic of uncertainty. So when you draft a player, you're generally speaking betting, right? If not literally betting, but you are betting in terms of your team's and franchise's history. And that bet, as you go into the earlier and earlier rounds, right, is a bigger and bigger bet. Teams just like to hedge that bet by guaranteeing less and less money as you went through the rounds of the draft, right? Sort of easy economics lesson. What teams are afraid of is that this will be the camel's nose under the tent. And that if the second rounders if majority of them are able to get guaranteed contracts, then how long is it before a third rounder holds out, right? So that's what they're afraid of. That's what they're trying to prevent. That's what they're trying to nip in this particular bud, is they're trying to, at least some teams, are trying to make sure that 5 years from now, we're not talking about is the fourth round next, right? That's what they're trying to head off at the pass, because they're afraid that once the genie's out of the bottle, we've talked about how hard it is to get toothpaste back in the tube, right? Once the genie's out of the bottle, once the toothpaste is out of the tube, once the camel's nose is under that tent, before you know it, you're sleeping next to a camel. So they don't want to sleep next to a camel. Particularly certain teams do not want to sleep next to a camel. we're going to have a fight over this, and I don't think it's going to resolve itself quickly. I think this is going to be a 1 to 3 year fight, and at some point, if the NFL Players Association was anything like the other players' associations, we would eventually have a full on strike, right? But that probably won't happen. The NFLPA is not feeling very strike-ish, apparently, but I mean, they let the rookie salary scale fly, which would not have happened in any of the other leagues. So they're unlikely to walk out over this. But if it did come down to that, if they did decide to go out over that, then we would see, well, one, we'd see if the NFLPA, is worth actually having as a union. But two, just how far entrenched is the league to try to prevent this from happening.
Okay. Bill, is Jaden already a top 5 quarterback?
Well,
Daniels to McMillan. How important is this duo to the Commanders' success? And can a revamped Commanders' defense stop Saquon Barkley?
well, it depends what you mean by stop. So I guess I'll ask it in reverse order. We saw the Chiefs game plan about 80% of what they did around stopping Saquon Barkley, and they held him. He had a bad game, right? They held him to a very unproductive game where he averaged something like 2.6 something yards per carry or something. One of the worst games of his career. Yay, right? So if that's what you mean, where you completely sell out and build your entire defensive game plan about holding down Saquon Barkley, then yes. But you can still end up getting destroyed. So what I would recommend is that you don't fixate on stopping Saquon Barkley and you fixate on winning the football game. That might be a better plan. To your first point, which I will address second. No, not in my world. I am not one of those people that goes on one date and gets married. Maybe there are people who feel comfortable doing it, but it's not the kid, not me. I want to go on several dates before I get married. So ask me again in a couple of years.
That's your Jaden Daniels take, right?
Yeah, right. That was the Jaden
Yeah,
Daniels.
and
I don't go out on one date and get married. So
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I need to see it again.
And what about Scary Terry?
Oh, okay. That's who you were talking about.
Yeah, you said
Okay, I was
McMillan
trying to
and
figure
you
out
meant
who you
McLaurin.
meant.
That's okay.
McLaurin, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Lauren.
No, it's
Okay. You remixed his name. Oh, okay. Well, Terry McLaurin is a terrific football player and oddly still underrated, despite being so productive under somewhat difficult circumstances until recently. I mean, he's not the key, but Terry McLaurin is the kind of player that, once again, like we talked about with with Barkley, with Saquon Barkley, that if you devote too many resources to shutting him down, then somebody else is going to hurt you. He's a top 12-ish receiver to me, but he could elevate himself with a big year this year into that 7-8 range. And some of the older guys are going to start aging out, right? Devontae Adams can only continue to play at this level for a little while longer. I mean, can Mike Evans just continue to go for 1,000 yards every year forever? That's eventually, I guess, going to have to come to an end. So he's not in that top 10 for me yet, but he's close.
Okay. Dave, TJ, what's his value? What's his future? There's some rumors that we might trade TJ for Scary Terry. Your thoughts on that?
Well, with Von Miller going to,
Well, I
I'm
guess-
sorry. Go ahead.
Also, I want to know what you think about Smith's system versus ayahuasca's actual ability. And my third, you mentioned my fans' perception, where like you said, hey, and I will agree. I do not. The thought of the Steelers having a mediocre season terrifies me. Maybe it shouldn't, but yes, I am used to winning. So, I want to get your
Well, you
take
can
on
forget
my
about
fans'
that, Jared.
perception.
You can forget about used to winning. That's
I
that's
just
something.
jumped in.
But I want to know what you think about my fans' prescription of winning isn't enough versus the reality of the division that we play in.
All right. First with the trade talk, they just signed Von Miller, the Commanders. So that kind of uh, and to me, with Washington, like making a move like that, that indicates that hey, they want to make a run. They think that they have something with Jaden Daniels, and they're ready to make a run. So I don't think that they want to give up Terry McLaurin. And and the same thing with the Steelers. The Steelers, they're not looking at this year, but they're looking at the future. You know, they probably see that, hey, TJ Watt has 3 or 4 years of productivity left. And so I think that their preference is to sign him, that they would rather keep him. And I think that TJ Watt, oh, somebody, we're
Can you
listening in
mute?
on
Can you
somebody
mute
there.
Bill? Yeah, can you mute Bill?
Yeah.
All right.
There we go. And so I think that, like Washington, I think that they would prefer to sign McLaurin. They want to keep him so that they can make their run. At the same time, I think that the Steelers would prefer to keep T.J. Watt, and I think that Watt would prefer to stay with the Steelers. You know, he's made quite a name for himself there. So I think that that's the direction that they're going to go. In terms of his value, well, we're going to find that out whenever we get the details of the contract that he signs, and that's going to be establishing his value. Now, some of the things that may be preventing an agreement to be coming in now might be guaranteed money. It might be the length of the contract. You know, for T.J. Watt, he might want a 5-year contract. For the Steelers, they might want more like a 3 or 4 year deal. You know, because he's you look at
31.
his brother tailed off very fast. You know, with his injuries. So you know, I don't see a trade between McLaurin and Watt, and the signing of Von Miller makes it even more so. In terms of Rodgers and Aaron Smith, I think, you know, one of the things that Aaron Rodgers had said, this was a couple weeks ago, was that he was planning on investing time with Arthur Smith to gain a full understanding of his scheme, you know, before training camp started. So I think that Rodgers is, you know, he's saying the right things, but what's more important is what does he do? One of the things that's a little concerning is that there were rumors last year that Arthur Smith didn't like Russell Wilson calling his own plays. But the thing is you got somebody like Aaron Rodgers, where today the NFL, the quarterback that they're looking at is like the athletic type quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, you know, Jaden Daniels, these guys that are not necessarily huge at reading defenses, but they depend on their athleticism in order to beat the defenses, and you know, their ability to pass in the run, you know, do whatever they have to do to beat the defense. Somebody like Aaron Rodgers, he's somebody that's going to have to be able to rely on his mind, his ability to read the defenses and know right where he's going with the ball, passing the ball, kind of like a Peyton Manning kind, you know, pocket passer, and using his mind to pick apart the defenses. And so, you know, what I'm hoping is that he gains a full understanding of Arthur Smith's system, who likes to run a lot of 12 personnel. You know, he likes the two tight end sets and zone blocking schemes, you know, with the running. But he has Jonnu Smith, he has DK Metcalf, he has Pat Freiermuth, He has Calvin Austin, and we'll learn what Russell Wilson Roman Wilson is capable of. So, I expect Aaron Rodgers to be a professional and adapt his game to Arthur Smith's scheme. Now, the last thing was about, and I got kind of confused because you mentioned the AFC or the NFC North, but you were talking about the AFC North.
Yes. Yeah.
And their ability to compete there. Well, I mean, Baltimore they have the best roster, and right now they're the team to beat in that division. Pittsburgh has managed to beat Baltimore more often than not, even though Baltimore has had better teams than they have. And I don't know if that's coaching. I don't know if that's the players. I don't know if that's Baltimore choking or what it is, but Pittsburgh has had the upper hand. So we'll just have to see how they do. I always look for a split within the division, 3-3 in the division, and then I'm looking at how competitive the rest of their schedule is. With Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, they're probably the second best team in the division. Now, what hurts Cincinnati, the reason that they're not up there with Baltimore is their lack of defense. They let a lot of their defenders go. So what Pittsburgh's going to have to rely on is Pittsburgh's defense going to be, are they going to deliver on what they're being paid? Because they're still one of the top paid defenses in the league. And so they're going to need to be a top 10 defense in order for them to compete and to kind of contain. You're not going to stop Joe Burrow, but at least contain him. The Browns they play above their heads whenever they play the Steelers. I would anticipate Joe Flacco starting out the season for them. Maybe Jalen Ramsey gets to actually break his interception drought. He didn't have any interceptions last year. Maybe he'll break his drought against Cleveland with a nice Joe Flacco softball to him. But I don't. I think that Cleveland I would probably have fourth in the league or fourth in the division, but they always play above their heads whenever they're playing the Steelers. And so if the Steelers can manage to go 3-3 in the division, they might have a shot at being 9-8, 10-7. But their real struggle is going to be going against the NFC North.
That's it.
That's going to be,
Yes,
they can't afford to be swept there. They can't go 1-3. They're going to need to go 2-2 or 3-1 against the NFC North, and that's going to be a tall order. That's going to be very tough to do. Now, one of the things is they're playing Minnesota in Dublin, but that would have been a Pittsburgh home game, and so that I kind of give the advantage to Minnesota, and I think that they'll have already been there. I think they have 2 games in a row in Europe, so that's where we're at. So I hope that answers your question, James.
And what do you think about my fan reaction? Should I be content with us having a losing season, even though we're building for next year?
Well, no, I wouldn't ask anybody to be content with the losing season, but they're facing a reality of it. I mean, with Bill Cowher, they went through 3 straight losing seasons.
Well, you haven't been losing, but you've been mediocre. You have all these mediocres here, just mediocrity.
Well,
Mr. Scott, hold on. Mr. Scott, when's the last time Minnesota's been to the Super Bowl?
That's not even the question. I mean, this is
Okay.
you're kind of
You're
getting to be a
talking,
bad
but you're
interviewer.
talking about
You're trying to be a
mediocrity.
very biased interviewer.
I definitely am, but you're talking about mediocrity, so that's why I had to ask that. But Mr.
Well,
Scott,
14-2 is not mediocre. 14-2 is not mediocre. Just for your
but you still sat at home with us watching the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I admit that.
Okay, all right.
But you know, really for the Steelers, I wouldn't ask somebody to be content with that. It's just a reality that they're facing.
Yeah, I can kind of dig that, Mr. Scott. Before I get your final thoughts, there seems to be a little controversy up in New England. Uh, Bill Belichick and Mr. Kraft have kind of uh, different takes on what happened in 1999. As you remember, that's when Bill took over with the Patriots, even though he had already signed with the Jets. So, Mr. Scott, who do you think took the biggest risk in '99, Bill Belichick or Robert Kraft? And then give us your final thoughts.
Well, they're both tainted people. I mean, Robert Kraft did stuff like Mr. Massage. She was caught in Miami, and I mean, Belichick. I mean, gosh, filming people, fooling with the football, some base, football, and then made Tom Brady take the fall for it. I mean, that was so dirty. Tom said, "I didn't do anything. I don't know nothing about the footballs. I just play football." And he had to take the fall of it. He had to sit out 4 games. He was suspended. So no, Bill Belichick. I mean, and Kraft. They're just and not to say that I'm so pillar of purity. I'm not. That's not what this is about. But what they've done is something that I don't believe I would even I wouldn't stoop that low.
Okay. Final thoughts, Mr. Scott.
Well, I just have one thought real quickly. When Dave talks about his love of the Pirates, and I love the Pirates. When they had that "We Are Family," and I mean, I'm telling you, that was just
79.
it was just awesome. But the only memory I'll just say is I saw an interview with Roberto Clemente, which is to me just one of the greats of the great, and he said how he saw Willie Stargell in the park they played in. I think it was Forbes Field. Was that the name of it?
Yeah.
But they had a center field that was 465 feet away. And Roberto Clemente said, I saw Willie Stargell hit at least 200 balls to the warning track out
He could
there.
crank them.
He said at least 200 balls out to the warning track. I mean, 460 feet. So I liked getting and talk about the old baseball thing because that's me and my brother. That's if I get my brother on here to talk about the Oakland A's with Reggie Jackson, and I mean he'll just go through the whole Catfish and Blue Moon Odom and Herb. He'll go through the whole thing. So so that's my final word.
Pops never met a Jim. That was all natural strength.
Yeah,
Pops didn't know how to spell Jim. That was real dude hitting a real baseball with a wooden bat. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Demetrius, your thoughts on Mr. Kraft and Belichick and your final thoughts.
So this is your classic example of both things can be true. There is a degree of they're both right. Kraft was taking a chance on a dude who by all accounts was a good coach, but he hadn't accomplished a damn thing, right? And the New England Patriots weren't the New England Patriots when Bill Belichick took that job. So the real answer here is they both took risks on each other. I'd lean toward Belichick in that he could have just kept the Jets job. And we might be talking about the Jets the way we talk about the Patriots. And New England would be, what they were before. All due respect to Steve Grogan and Randall Cunningham's older brother. Help me out, Bill.
Bam, bam.
Bam, bam. Yes. So all due respect to those guys. So I think they're both right. Short answer there. And it's funny that these two are like a couple of petulant little kids. It was me. No, it's me. But both of you guys, and again, we close with Mr. Scott's not wrong. Everything he said about those two assholes is true. So there's still that. But in terms of your question, I don't think either one is right or wrong. There's a degree of truth for both of them. If you force me to pick, Belichick probably took a little bit of a bigger risk. But the instability in New York, I don't even know if that's true. So but they both might be right. My final thoughts are, I need you guys to indulge me a little bit, but then I also need you guys to tell me if I'm wrong. So I got challenged with the idea. Somebody was in the office just saying, professional athletes make too much money. Professional athletes are overpaid. And I got sick of it. And I finally said, okay, I'm going to need you to shut up. Here's 3 reasons why. Right? One, what they do is special and unique. And I basically said, when I had Lions season tickets, if they had thrown a 20 on Larry Sanders, I'm not going to watch him play football. I want to see Barry because there's only one Barry. You can't have a kid, groom his diet, Google Marinovich. You can't do it. You can't make Barry Sanders. God made Barry Sanders. That's it. I was going to see him. He's the product. My mom put doors on Buick LeSabres. If my mom could have gotten 80,000 people to come watch her put doors on Buick LeSabres and pay to park and pay for hot dogs and beers, GM would have gladly given my mom millions of dollars. But the product is the car. My mom was making a car. People bought the car. Barry Sanders was the product. So let's first get that. Unique and special. Second, they generated billions with a B. They abso-fucking-lutely deserve millions because we just established they're the product that's generating billions. I would make a case they're underpaid at a time. Not as much now, but back when there was times when those guys were grossly underpaid. And the last one was even simpler. Forget my first two. Every athlete in every sport, no matter what they're getting paid, accepted an offer. Somebody told him he was worth $20 million a year. All he did was grab a pen. All he did was grab a pen. Whoever it is you're mad at, whatever person you think doesn't deserve whatever they're getting, remember, I think Dave earlier talked about value. If the president of GM would have came to my mom and said, Mary, we appreciate you getting 80,000 people watching you putting doors on Buick LeSabres, paying the park, paying for hot dogs. ABC is giving us $20 million a year to air you putting doors on Buick LeSabres. My mom would have cut her best friend's throat and signed that fucking contract in blood. Right? They accept offers. God-given ability, generating billions, and all of them accepted an offer. Somebody told them they were worth it. So who are you, dude, that works in my office, who believes that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Devin Booker doesn't deserve $75 million a year? You know who does believe Devin Booker deserves $75 million a year? Matt Ishbia, the owner of the Phoenix Suns. You don't get, he's worth every penny because Matt Ishbia giving it to him. That's why he deserves it. So this whole narrative of pro athletes are overpaid. No. Because if any one of the 5 of us could do it, we'd do it and cash the checks, right? And like I said, if my mom could have gotten 80,000 people to watch her put doors on Buick LeSabres, GM would have given her millions of dollars. But that's not how it works. So stop with the nonsense. Stop comparing them to I know teachers' jobs are harder. I know baseball is a kid's game. Stop it with the bullshit. Just stop it. Police and firefighters do much more important work. Nurses and doctors. I get it. But they deserve every penny they get. Why? Because somebody gave it to them. And they earned it. And they've probably been working since they were 10 years old to get there. So if you're one of those people out there who thinks athletes are overpaid, go fire up your Google machine, do a modicum of homework. You might change your mind.
But they make a lot of money. But what do the owners make? You think the owners are going to give them all of this and they're not making any money? No. So what does
they generate billions.
That's what he said. Billions.
Yeah. The owners make billions. Why shouldn't the players get millions? They probably. I really want to make an argument that most athletes, because we worry about the top in football. Bill will help me if my numbers are off. It's a very small percentage of guys that make the big money who we hear about. Most guys in the league, their career life is 3.5, maybe 5 years at best, and a lot of them make league minimum is a lot for us. Maybe not for Bill. I think Bill's big time. But I think for the rest of us, no, a league minimum feels like a lot of money to you and I. But that's their life. It's 24/7. They're working out. They're away from their families. People don't think about that. They see the contracts on TV. Oh, how could Devin Booker make $75 million? Because Matt Ishbia gave it to him. That's why. Everything else doesn't matter. Because if somebody offered it to me, I would sign the contract. And my mom wouldn't have killed her best friend for the money. She would have borrowed her pen. Sorry, Mom.
Dave.
All right, I got three things. First, and this is really for Anthony. The Pirates, they're not the Yankees, but they were a solid franchise in the last 20 years since they lost that playoff game against the Braves. They've been so pathetic. And this year's Pirates edition of the Pirates, they've done something. They've achieved something that hasn't been done in 122 years. The Pittsburgh Pirates last had an overall losing record in 1903. As of July 13th, 2025, the Pirates' all-time franchise record stood at 10,877 wins and 10,877 losses, exactly 500, following an 8-game losing streak. Probably the Twins are involved in that, right? Before this, the last time they were at 500 or worse was in 1903.
Damn.
And man, and by the way, that was July 13th. Well, they've played 2 games since then. They're now 10,877 and 10,879. They've lost 2 more games. So that's my baseball.
That's tough close, bro.
Do they draw many fans there? I mean, what's their attendance like? Do they draw?
It's pathetic. It's pathetic. Now, I have a bunch of friends that are going this weekend, and this is Lollapalooza weekend. They have a lot of marketing things, but no.
Every fifth day when Paul Skeens pitches, they draw, right?
They'll draw when Skeens pitches, right. Yeah. And no, they're hurting, and part of the problem is the only thing that will change, I'm convinced, is they have to have a change of an owner. Until they change the owner, they're not going to go anywhere, because he doesn't have an incentive really to put more money into the.
That sport's got a revenue share. It's not fair. Don't be totally mad at them. They need to share revenue in that sport. The teams like the Pirates don't really stand a chance unless they just want to hemorrhage money to compete.
No, they're profitable. They're very.
To be profitable and competitive at the same time is very, very difficult for a team like the Pirates. They don't have that local TV deal the Yankees and Dodgers have. They just don't have the pockets. And unless they collectively bargain a revenue sharing agreement, there's always going to be a haves and have-nots in baseball.
Yeah.
Dave, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to go to the second one. I had three things. The second one is I participated. I got to the finals of Steelers Depot Jeopardy today. I'm not going to spoil the results, but whenever they should be airing it next week, so nice. I'll drop that YouTube of it into our message string whenever that drops, and you'll see how I did. And I did make it to the final because I won the. This was my 3rd time, but I did win a round. But the last thing I had is I had my 50th high school reunion this Saturday. And, my high school, Winston Churchill High School, first graduating class was in 1967. My brother graduated in 68. But they've had a lot of great athletes. We've had Olympic gold medalists that have gone there, tennis pros, golfers, all kinds. But a couple names I'm going to run out by you, and probably Bill Carroll will know most of these. But Eric Smith played at Georgetown. and he was drafted by the Portland Trail Blazers in 1982.
I know.
And then there's Jeff Halpern, who was a longtime hockey player in the NHL. Now, he went to Churchill. The problem was they didn't have a hockey team at the time. They now do have a hockey team, and they've won the States several times. But he went to Churchill and went on to the NHL. And then we have we've had a bunch of players that have gone to camp in the NFL over the years since the 70s. Like Bert Kamut actually went to the Steelers camp for a couple of days, and he played with Schellenberger at the University of Miami. But these 6 guys, and probably Bill knows them all went to my high school. The first is Brian Holloway, offensive tackle with the Patriots and the Raiders. He played from 81 to 88. I actually knew him when he was a sophomore on the team. Then there's running back Paul Boo Boo Palmer, who played for the Chiefs and the Lions from 87 to 89. Then defensive back Travis Curtis played for the Cardinals, the Redskins, the Vikings, and the Jets from 1987 to 1991. Quarterback Jeff Kemp, who my wife and I actually watched him play in a playoff game. He's the son of Jack Kemp, who played for the Buffalo Bills and was also played for the Steelers. That's where he started his NFL career, the dad.
The U.S.
Jeff
Senator,
Kemp,
too.
the U.S. Senator too. But Jeff Kemp and his brother actually played, but his brother didn't. Jim Kemp did not make it. He played in the CFL. But Jeff Kemp played for the Rams, the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Eagles from 1981 to 1991. And then linebacker Dhani Jones, who was a commencement speaker at one of my son's graduation classes. He played for the Giants, the Eagles, and the Bengals from 2001 to 2010. And he had started this bow tie company. He was big on bow ties.
Didn't he go to the school that shall not be named?
Yes, he did. He was and he was a big. He wrestled at our high school. But yes, he was blue. And then the last one, who I just learned about, I didn't know this, but it's a quarterback, Gibran Hamdan, who played for the Redskins in 2003. He was the first NFL player of Pakistani descent.
Wow.
And his mother was Pakistani, his father was Palestinian, but they were living in Kuwait during the first Gulf War, and then they ended up coming to the United States to live. But he started out at Churchill, but he ended up transferring to a private school, the Bishop O'Connell. But then he was with the Redskins in 2003. So anyway, I just wanted to shout out, and Bill, I'm sure you've heard all those guys. So.
Yeah, I have sharp, clear memories of several of them. I still have my scouting notes on Paul Palmer from Boston College. Dhani Jones, as you mentioned, the sartorial splendor of Dhani Jones. Gibran Hamdan was an interesting prospect. I still have my scouting notes on him. Holloway, I vaguely remember. He's one of the one I probably have the least clear memories of. I do remember him.
He was their players rep, and then they had a walkout or something, and then that's what ended his career. That they let him go after that because he was a player's rep. But good guy. He wasn't a big when he went to high school. He was a starter, but he wasn't like an all-Met or anything like that. But he, once he got to college, he grew out a little bit, and he. Solid NFL. I think it was 10 years he was in the NFL.
Yeah, that's better than solid. If you last 10 years, that's a little something special to you because every year they're looking to get rid of you.
Yep.
Bill, final thoughts on Belichick and Kraft, and your final thoughts.
Yeah, well, I mean, the classic plague on both your houses or whatever has been invoked previously. I respect William Stephen Belichick Jr. tremendously, but it is clear that he is not a person of spotless character in certain areas. And like so many great people, he has a way of seeing himself that may not always comport with how the world sees him. And last but not least, great people, particularly great people who have succeeded because of risks, right? George Smith Patton may or may not have been one of the greatest generals of all time, but he certainly was one of the least risk averse generals of all time. He was mostly known for, or largely known for, saying he was going to be able to do things that seemed impossible and then somehow doing many of them. When you think about someone like Belichick, who is a bit of a historian and a bit of a military historian, if you want, he gets into military history also, but he gets into history in general, and he sees himself to a certain extent as a descendant of the Caesars, right? To some extent, right? He's one of those people that sees himself as a person who has elevated himself to some extent to this area because of his, hard work, dedication, but also, guts, temerity, boldness, pick a term. And so if you ask him a question about, hey, taking risks, he's always going to say, yes, I embrace it. I such and such. I blah, blah, blah. Robert Kraft's a businessman, a very successful one. And he has gotten where he is, not by accident, right? Though he had certain advantages in his youth, it wasn't like one of those people who just inherited a bunch of money. He was put in a situation where he could leverage certain things like his education and opportunities, and he took certain risks. I would say that owners' risks are different from players and coaches' risks, because no matter how badly you bought something as an owner, when you wake up the next morning, you're still the owner. No matter how badly you mess whatever it is up, and the next morning when you wake up, you still own the team. If you're a player or a coach, if you mess it up badly enough, when you wake up the next morning, you might be checking the transactions page of the sports to see where you're going to next be, or if you're going to be any place. So by nature, the risk assessment is different for coaches or players because there's someone who can come and fire you, right? When there's no one to fire you, ask the Cowboys about this. When there's no one who can fire you, no matter what you do, right? While you're taking quote unquote risks, the payoff or penalty is very different. The payoff, if you take a big risk and it works, is you're a genius, right? Hey, you hired Belichick. That was really smart. If it turns out that it's a terrible thing, okay, people may, talk bad about you on sports radio or whatever, right? Light you up on Twitter, right? Or X or whatever the heck it's called. But guess what? You check your bank balance, still a billionaire. You go into the office, you still have it's not a job, I guess. You still have an office, right? Where everyone else has a job because you hired them and until you fire them. So I'm always going to side with, the same way we talk about salary disputes, where I always side with the millionaires over billionaires. I'm always going to side with the person who could potentially lose their gig if this doesn't work out, over the person who will fire you from this gig if it doesn't work out when it comes to risk assessment. My last final thought is the reason I was late is I was taping a documentary for a documentarian named Jeremy Gatz, who is making a documentary about Sid Luckman. And so he told me it would take an hour. And I got there at like 5:15. And, though I had to deal with a little bit of traffic, I don't know if it's my fault or his fault. Well, also they had a little technical challenge, but it took about 3 times as long as he said it was going to take. But I very much enjoy talking about Sid Luckman. People forget. Well, maybe they're being reminded again because of the anti-Semitism, I guess, is back in vogue. But I think people forget how different and how difficult it was for Jewish athletes to be accepted in America. I mean, Hank Greenberg was one of the great, obviously in boxing, we had guys like, Benny Leonard and others who helped to sort of establish there was a place for Jewish athletes. But before, Benny Friedman had sort of been the test case, right, for Jewish quarterbacks or really tailbacks. I mean, he was essentially a quarterback playing single wing tailback. And if only Benny Freeman had been allowed to play T formation, the things he could have done. But that was Cyanide Sid's boyhood idol, was Benny Freeman. Partially because he's Jewish and partially because he was a terrific passer by the standards of the era, the best passer, in fact, of his era. And Sid, like every young boy, also was a baseball player because everyone played baseball in those days. And he probably could have been a terrific baseball player if he'd really pursued that. He played both at Erasmus Hall High School, finds his way to Columbia where he does not get a scholarship, works his way through school back when you could still work your way through an Ivy League education by working in a kitchen. Boy, inflation. But he manages to, Lou Little becomes a surrogate father to him. For those who don't really know a lot of the backstory of Sid Luckman, his father, Meyer Luckman, went to prison for a very, very long time for the strangling death of his brother-in-law because of some money that was misappropriated, and they were at least tangentially connected to something called Murder Inc. And when you owe money to Murder Inc., you may end up being strangled to death. So that's how that works. Now, depending on who you believe and what you've read into history, either Meyer Luckman actually did the deed himself, or perhaps someone else did it and he took the fall. At this point, it doesn't matter, right? That water is long under the bridge. But it put the Luckman cartage or trucking company in jeopardy. And so when Sid Luckman graduated from Columbia, his plan was to go back and run the family business with his father, unfortunately, being incarcerated. It took several attempts and offers and inducements and flat out begging for George Halas to eventually convince Sid Luckman to leave New York, get on a train. I think it was the Super Chief, for those who are into train history, and take it from Grand Central Station in New York to beautiful Chicago, where he got off. And a man named Irv Kupcinet, people who are big into like journalism history may know that name. Irv Kupcinet, who was sort of Mr. Chicago at the time and also a fellow Jew, if that matters, but was a big-time columnist, came to meet him and helped to sort of show him the city. It took $5,500 in salary and a whopping $500 signing bonus. Once again, to put in perspective, 1939 money, that's equivalent now when you add all that together, about $124,000, which even for a Columbia grad, still, was a decent amount of money in those days. And the secret project that Clark Shaughnessy, Solly Sherman, who I don't think gets enough credit for this, the term quarterback coach didn't exist yet, but Solly Sherman was officially a backup quarterback. He only had a one-year NFL career, but he was essentially there to work with Shaughnessy and Ralph Jones. Ralph Jones was not the current coach of the Bears, but the former coach of the Bears. And he became essentially, I guess we would use the term run game coordinator, sort of a combination offensive line coach and guy who sort of helped scheme up the runs that would come from this old formation they were trying to make new again. In the old tight T, there was almost no space, right? The line splits were graduated, where you had almost no line split between the center and the guard, and then you had a little over 2 feet, and then sort of widening out, right? So each one had a little more space between them. In this new version of the T, you changed that. You put the quarterback under center. And
I thought we were talking about Sid Luckman here. What happened?
We're talking about Sid Luckman. I'm about to land the plane. The point is that Sid Luckman is coming from an offense that bears no resemblance. When people say they're learning a new offense nowadays, they're not. What they're learning is different nomenclature, a couple of different formations, some different protections. It's essentially the same offense they came from, with a little added flair, spice, garlic sprinkles, whatever. This was truly learning a new offense. You have to understand that 99.9% of the offenses at every level of football at that time were single wing. When he decides to go back to the T formation, which at once we called the regular formation, at one point it was so ubiquitous, but it had been essentially run out of football by single wing, to the point that when Shaughnessy decides to install this, no lesser light, right? No lesser light than one Glenn Scobie Pop Warner says that if they win one game, you can take all that I know about football and throw it in the Pacific Ocean, right? So this is essentially one of the Mount Rushmore people of football thought it wouldn't work. It worked at least in part because this group, Ersatz group of sort of rebels, has-beens, and never-wases, worked together with Sid Luckman. And after it fits and starts in 39, he comes back in 1940. They not only win a championship, but in the championship game against a team that had beaten them, right, in the same season, the Washington team led by George Preston Marshall, my least favorite.
22-0.
They won 73-0, obviously, right? And that established T formation, which eventually, and to this day, rules the roost in football. But it could not happen without a Jewish kid from Brooklyn, Rasmus Hall High School, being talked into, right? Basically romanced practically by George Hallis to leave the bosom of his family and the large Jewish community of Brooklyn to come to Chicago and become really one of America's first nationwide stars who was a Jewish athlete. And at one point, was on the cover of Time magazine, which would have been unthinkable for a football player, just a few years before. That is my final thought.
Well, guys, as always, very productive and entertaining Wednesday night. I look forward to talking to everybody again next week. Mr. Scott, want to hear more about your training camp and what's going on up there in Minnesota. Bill, I might need you to keep track of Mr. Williams for me and what's happening over there in Chicagoland.
Sure. Yeah.
Dave, Demetrius, I know you guys aren't going to change teams, so I don't have to worry about that. But so
You do not. You do not.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
You're muted, Mr. Scott. You can't even go out with because he's trying to drop a shot and we can't hear him.
Mr.
Can't hear you, bro. It's great. Look at his face. We can't hear you.
Unmute yourself, Mr. Scott.
It's very fitting, actually, in a very strange sort of way.
He might be doing it on purpose. I think he's doing it on purpose. He wants us to know that he's talking, but he doesn't want us to hear what he's saying.
No, that's I see Demetrius, his mouth is working, but I don't hear anything.
Everybody else heard me though, so it's all worked out.
Have a good weekend, guys.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah, Demetrius. Yeah, goodbye.